All right. So where are we at here? What are we doing? We are hanging out today. I'm doing some work in my other channels here on my other pages and screens, but you guys are welcome to hang out. We're talking about Linux and systems work and all the kind of stuff that we do around here. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, let me know. If anybody wants to join the Discord, let me know. But this is what I'm working on right now. Make sure that my Twitch has decided to connect. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So these are some of the topics that we'll be talking about and working on, and maybe we'll check on some stuff. I got my little game running in the background. Got Ranger Check going there. Had a power outage this weekend, so that was a fun little thing to deal with in the home lab. It's always fun when that happens. So, yeah, we've got most of the stuff back online. All the functionality for the lab should be going, and yeah, we're just hanging out and working on stuff. I am doing some projects again in other windows, so I'm working on other stuff. But I'm here monitoring chat and stuff. So if you guys have any questions or want to talk about what we're working on, um, feel free to let me know. Again, I'll be kind of checking in on the chat and working on these other windows as I kind of do stuff here. Hmm. Okay. I'm reviewing some of our systems in a different window right now, making sure everything's working on one of my projects. Other than that, just hanging out, talking shop, talking Linux. I got that little video game playing in the bottom right corner. I'm almost done with that one. It's a little idle time waster. Just leave it running all the time, so it's always fun. Other than that, yeah, if you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. Ranger's doing good. It's also getting hotter in Phoenix again. It's back up in the high 80s, so it's not quite summer here yet, but it's getting there. That's always fun as that kind of starts to kick off. All right. Getting some better boots. Getting some more vitality. All right. But yeah, mainly if you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. Especially if you're looking to do the course. I know people are always wondering about, if they can still start the courses or if they should wait for another run of them. I say start them. I say start getting the information, and then going from there. But obviously, your mileage is going to vary on how much you get out of that. I think working with people who are actively doing this stuff will benefit you, especially if you're reading their responses and working through some of the same stuff that they're working through. So I think there's value in all of that. Let me check something over here on the Twitch side. Let me see if I'm in the... Yeah, science and technology. Good. Making sure I'm in the right categories for what we're working on here. Other than that, we can go to here and go find something that's maybe useful to some of you guys. Let's find. Oh shoot, ever since the reboot. Who even knows anymore since the reboot? Nope, doesn't look like it's kept. So, let's go check in the history here. Yeah, I don't see what I'm looking for in the history. That's unfortunate. Nope. Well, I guess that's gone. Maybe not forever, but I definitely don't have the documentation for it. Huh. That's fun. I guess I don't have it, so I won't worry about it for right now. What we'll do for now then, I guess, is just check the nodes. Let's check the nodes that are there. Let's check them with a dash F20 so it'll go a little faster. And then, yeah, just let me know if you guys have any questions or anything you want to know about the systems or how we run things. Any of that kind of stuff. What might be useful to you. Other than that, just hanging out. Not working too hard. Putting in for some accesses with some of my government systems, so I'm working on that in a different window. Can't show you guys that, obviously, because there's a bunch of PII all over that. Bunch of specific things I have to sign for certain new accesses, and actually some of it's old accesses that I just need to get again. So all the servers are up. That's good. Some of them have been up, well, they've all been up only 2 days. And if anybody was around this weekend, you know why they were only up for 2 days. But yeah, in general, all the systems are working. People should have access to the labs and such. We've got the lab systems back here that you guys can look at. These are the books for the courses, which, again, I tell you guys all the time, the dudes in the server have been doing a really good job of putting these books together. They're free, so I'll just link them over to you guys that want them. They are on the Linux admin course and the Linux security engineering course. So those are both free courses in the Discord that you can go hang out and work on or do whatever you want with. So that's something for you guys to play with if you are interested in getting into those spaces professionally. You know, the whole point of this, the whole reason I go online is to tell you guys that there's a group of engineers that are out there that are trying to get other people into admin and engineering type work. And that's what we do. Shoot, there's people in there working on all kinds of stuff. So that's what we do. Work on systems. Keep them working. Chica, you said, how long am I on for today? I'm just kind of hanging out, so probably a couple hours. I don't have anything. I've got some work stuff that I'm just doing. I'm still in one of my big projects that I'm working on right now. I'm kind of in a holding pattern until the government gives me the accesses that I need to run some of their systems. So in that case, I'm not doing as much. I'm just reviewing documentations and documentation in another window and making sure that I have all the other accesses that I need, so I'm ready once they do give me the it's a lot to assume root in an environment like root or admin in an environment. It takes a lot of documentation typically, and just making sure you have the right security clearances and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of doing that and making sure that that's all good, so that I can do all the things that I need to. Oh, looks like actually over here need to upgrade all of these. There we go. All right. Now everything can go to a higher stat. So that's where I'm at in this little game back here. Just killing monsters, collecting loot, making boots. That's what we're doing. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about what we kind of do around here or the lab environment or any of those kind of things, feel free to let me know. We also have a Discord that you can go talk in. People are down there talking right now, actually. They're building a bot to better interact. We have a few bots in our Discord already that interact with people in different ways. And there's, all kinds of documentation on how that's done in case anybody wants to get into that type of work. But also, just getting into systems administration, doing the low level, I wouldn't even call this like the cool work. It's the work underneath all the other work. We enable a lot of the software engineers and a lot of the site reliability engineers to do their type of work. We're the ones that maintain the underlying Linux systems and keep everything running and patched and updated and all that kind of stuff. In fact, the unit this week is going to be a big part of what's been successful in my career is patching and maintaining and updating servers for security baselines. So that's something that I'm, if we wouldn't say super good at, we would for sure say something I'm very experienced at. And I can at least share those experiences with you guys and hopefully make that experience a little less terrible for you. In fact, I have that right here. One of the things for this week is I'm going to be, for Unit 5, which is this upcoming week, I'm going to be building the procedures for, so there's two parts to the system's work, right? There's like, updating a system super easy, right? We can just hit yum-y or dnf-y update, right? I mean, that's like the stupidest, easiest thing ever, but that'll patch one system. Well, now we need to think about patching, 1,000 systems in a night. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's a bunch of stuff that I would say you want to do with patching. So pre-check, do your patching, reboot the server if needed, if the logic calls for it, server validation that at the server level your system's back up, and then app validation that the final piece of whatever application that server was running is done, right? So that's one part of it. That's applying patches and updating your system. And then the other part that's going to be a little more work to build out the process for is patch cycles, where I talk about, when you pull down and lock in a version of a repository on like May 1st or something. We'll do probably May 1st because that's when I think the course will be right around that time. So it's in about 6 days or whatever, 5 days. So we'll lock in on a specific day, and then we have to test those patches and ensure that they don't break the software in our environment before we move them through dev, test, QA, whatever your environment cycles are, and go into customer-facing prod. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. That's what the security course is going to be over. Just stuff around knocking out patching. Because, just hitting the update button is easy. But doing that in a controlled fashion that doesn't break stuff in an environment is much more challenging. Look at Ranger down there. Speaking of patching, dog is just laying there. Also, I think I left my Nagios server down, so I might want to bring that up. I'll go bring my Nagios server back up. I think I left him down from the other day. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I know why all the servers went down. I don't know why I left Nagios down, though. I think maybe I just didn't think he was required in the environment, but it does look like it's affecting me a little bit that he's down. So I'll go fix that one window, that one terminal. All right. Other than that, just hanging out, making sure that our systems are working. We might do tail dash 30. So then let's do this. We'll do iostat dash xz. So we'll get that. We'll do that. We'll cat out temp some file. Let's go look at all these real quick. I'm just gonna make sure that these all look like I want them to. Yep. And then we'll maybe sleep 5, and then we'll we'll do a timeout of maybe 10 on tail dash f var log werewolf dot log. All right. So do all those. Let's make sure. So we got that. We do our tail for a little bit. Watch that. Make sure that that's doing the stuff that it should. All right. So we can do this, and we can say checking system. Say checking werewolf operations. And then that. Yeah, that'll be fine. All right. So we'll leave that running. Oh, and then I want to, just for now, just so I don't lose it again, go drop that in a notepad somewhere. All right. For now. There we go. Now that'll just run, and then we'll see all the things that we're doing. You know, I might want to change one thing here. Checking systems, uptime, sleep 1, free dash m. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's probably better. Check system uptime. Boom. Do all that. Looking at security topics. It's good. Colchis, yeah, I think if you're talking the website that Treasure built, oh, it looks real good. Whoops, it's right here. Yeah, he did a really good job. I haven't deployed it in a while, but I did have to bring it up the other day. And it should work with no issues. Yeah, sometimes we get a little issue like that, but I still need to go fix that in the time. There's a timeout in the CloudFront, but after a few seconds of that, it comes up. Yeah, there we go. So I'll just leave it up, but yeah, it looks pretty good, and then people can sign up for the courses even though they're already running. So yeah. Chico said I shared an Excalibur for Unit 4. I got a blank screen. I think somebody else said the same thing. Where? Oh yeah. So what happened, Chico? So for that, yeah, I'll show you what happened. So in the Excalibur, the question is right here. I shared this and it was a blank screen for everybody. But what actually happened? I'm gonna save this real quick to mine. So I'm gonna save this down to. Actually, I might have this as an open file. No, I don't yet. Hold on. Let me save this to my disk real quick and say Linux Security Engineering course. Boom. And yep, save over it. So I'll share this to you guys, right? This was the question. Was I'll share this out to you guys. And then what was happening to people was they were seeing this in a when you first go in here, you'll see this in white mode or you'll be in day mode. Whatever they call that. And then light mode. So we want to switch over to dark mode, and then you'll be able to see everything. People on the Twitch side, if you link that, you'll have to pull that whole link. You have to copy it and throw it in Discord. So cool, because you still can't link to the site. It should work for you. If it doesn't work for you, then I've seen that some people were having problems with DNS resolution. So I would try DNS resolution and make sure that you see it going where it should. If not, yeah. So, Colchis, there's a slight, I wouldn't say a problem. There's a timeout issue with the cache, and I need to CACHE, and I need to fix that over on the AWS side. I just need to fix it. Chico, you're started off in dark mode and it still didn't, and you still don't see it. You guys should be able to see this. Yeah, and also if you draw anything, it doesn't affect anything for me, so you guys can do whatever you want. I'm down here. I was just sharing it like this section right here because this is what I'm working on for the next week. We're in Unit 5 as the next week. So, yeah. And you guys can affect that any way you want because it doesn't bug, it doesn't affect my control of the system. If I drop out of there, it doesn't affect, you guys should all still have access to it, I believe. So, yeah, there you go. So, and then if I reopen my Excalidraw, it should come up. Yeah. And then I'm not in a shared mode anymore, but you guys should still have access to your version of it. So there you go, boom. So yeah, that's what we're doing around here. We've got a Linux admin course running and a Linux security course running. The next versions of the course that I'm planning on building will be an Ansible one, or well, it'll be automation. So it'll be automation, and it will be somewhere. It'll be a hybrid of like the way I used to do things with Bash, and probably Bash and Perl. But then that'll be the old way. I'll show you guys like the old way we used to do things. And then we will focus on the newer, more modern ways, which are Ansible 100%. That's huge. And then we will also hit on some Python just to do it. And I think that'll be good because people will see that Bash is still a very valid way to do systems administration. There's no, like, anybody that tells you, oh, I don't ever need Bash to like run a for loop against a bunch of servers, I'd say, well, maybe not all the time, but for sure one-offs and stuff. Like if I just need to touch a bunch of servers and get something going, that's a great way to do it. Well, I don't think anybody hates on Bash. It's just somebody might say, oh, well, there's no, with Ansible, I can do everything. And I would say I can do everything with Ansible, but for quick and dirty stuff, man, I can get a lot of stuff done with Bash. Yeah, Dojo, that's fair. Bash is like the jujitsu of Linux. Yeah, 100%. And Bash is also how you interact with Linux. So, I mean, like when we say we're doing Linux, we really mean we're doing a lot of Bash. Yeah, it's almost like I tell you guys, when I first jumped on a team over at AAA back in like 2016, I jumped over there. I was the tech lead. I got brought in as the tech lead. And the other guy that had been around a long time, he was a Perl guy too. And he and I both did a lot of Perl. And that's Perl. I know my closed captioning's not doing it right, but we were like, a lot of our scripts were in that, and then we talked about it, and we decided that we would do all Bash and Ansible going forward because that's what all the newer guys understood. We weren't going to lock people in on doing Perl if it didn't make more sense to just do a more modern way of doing it. So. Chico, you still don't see it? I'll tell you what, I will share, there's a different way I can share this. I can do just a read-only link, but I don't think that should, I think if I did this, you couldn't copy it though. Well, Chica, just so you know, I have everything here in the security course, so, whoops. What's going on here? Damn it. That's what happens when I have this stuff spinning in the background. Ah, damn it. Intercam. There we go. So that's what I get when everything's spinning in the background. Everything is over here on the course, though. If we go to Unit 4, I think the guys have... Oh, Unit 4 is not all up yet. That's fine. I was thinking that it was, let's go check. Hold on, let's go check one other thing. Ah, the worksheet's up, though. So Unit 4 worksheet's up. That's good. And namespaces, digging deep. Okay, yeah, so all the info is in here if you needed it. So here's this is kind of the pre-lab diagram that we talked about and what we ended up building as a Bastion type system. So hopefully that, you're not too lost. I mean, unfortunately, the way I built. Yeah. I don't know why the Excalidraw is not shown for you, but this is the way that this is how I kind of do my planning with the kind of Excalidraw, because then I can draw whatever I need. Yeah, Deathwish, that's probably what happened when I linked that out. People probably have to change it to dark mode, and then they need to do like a Control A and change it all to like white. That's what I would do. In fact, that's what the guys did to make it work. I think was when I shared it to them, they went like this. I think this is what they did. They did a Control A and they changed it all to like blue, and then it worked. Like it worked enough for us here that we could still see it in dark mode, but then people that were in light mode could see it as well. So I think that's actually what the guys did to fix that. But I wasn't tracking super close when we were doing that the other day. I wasn't really, I think I was focused on something else, so I don't always capture everything in meetings when I'm doing other stuff, guys. If you haven't noticed, I'm kind of lost sometimes. Bruce said something about crypto and banking. I don't do anything with crypto stuff, so I can't tell you that. But if you said, check my system in case of virus and network is secure, please, or you only don't trust YouTubers. Yeah, well, no, Bruce, so, I mean, the main thing I would tell you is if you are doing Linux-style systems, you can at least see all the processes that are running. So you can see, if it were me, I would do Linux so that I could control everything, I guess, if I was doing crypto banking stuff. I don't really mess with any of that, so I can't really speak to any individual program or whatever. But I would just make sure that you trust whatever tooling and open source or whatever systems you're on. And then in the Linux side of things, yeah, you can just keep track and make sure the processes aren't accessing things. Make sure you've got the box pretty well locked down on the port side of things, and make sure you kind of know what's going on. That's really all I would do. So, yeah. That's what I would, that would be my focus anyways. Is my Excalidraw still in share mode? Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, this is what I would do, guys. And then as far as the course goes, these courses, like, I was showing the guys this last week, and I think, like, maybe I'm not as clear on it sometimes, because then I say something and somebody will be like, oh, I didn't even know that. If you guys do take these courses, right, if you do say, hey, I'm interested in doing these courses, they're free. But what I would tell you is the stuff right here where I got it highlighted in blue, those course objectives, those are, like, if you're ever in a college class, this is a real syllabus. Like, I'm using a real syllabus for this from an old college that doesn't exist anymore. And the way I do my course objectives, these are the things that you should be able to put on a resume when you're done with this week. So, like, let's say this week was implement user ingress controls to system network with Bastion frameworks. When you're done with this week, you should understand Bastion's what we call air gap networks and jails. You should understand those three things pretty well, I think. Then, I think that ingress and egress should be part of those explanations. And I think that you should be able to take that and put that on a resume if somebody asked for, like, a security engineer that knew how to do Linux and set up or maintain Bastion environments. You would know the components of a Bastion framework well enough to talk to it. And if you did the lab, right, so you guys that actually did the lab, you would know that we built out a Bastion and we tested it. We did all those things to verify that we knew how to do it, right? That was the purpose of that week. So then, like, I kind of tell you guys, and I'm emphasizing now again, but if you do either of the courses, these are the things I want you to be able to put on a resume. I wouldn't want anybody to ever put on a resume. I did some course on the internet with some guy named Scott, and he taught me some Linux, and it was pretty good, and he made a bunch of jokes, and they weren't very funny, but, you know, like, it was all Linux, and I know Linux now real good and stuff. That would be a terrible thing to put on a resume. Like, slightly less terrible would be I did a class for 16 weeks on professional Linux users group. That probably sounds good if anybody knows who we are. They know that we at least understand Linux from a professional standpoint. But much better would be in your skills or in a section about maybe extracurriculars, you put down that you know how to do these things. So then somebody could say, okay, You claim to know about a bastion. Why don't you tell me about a bastion in 2 minutes? And you could do that because you've been working on it. CoreWired, you've been installing CrowdSec on your home stuff. It doesn't have a free tier. Oh, it does have a free tier. Is that a CrowdStrike with like Falcon Sensor and stuff? Falcon Sensor's their free version. Yeah. So yeah, Bruce. The other thing too is no, you don't. So you don't need to do that stuff on the outside. On the inside, you can use like SS or Netstat, and those things will tell you what's open. Then the other thing I think, kind of like CoreWired said, is make sure you have something running. In my home lab, I run ClamWin AV. ClamWin AV is pretty. ClamWin is the Windows version. I run ClamAV, which is the Cisco. They bought it a while ago. If you guys don't know, it's an open source project, but Clam is owned by Cisco, and I run that in all my home lab stuff. So actually, if you go in my home lab on any of these boxes. Let's see if Clam's running now. It's not. Fresh isn't running either. But if you go to like my Etsy cron.daily, so this runs at 3:15 a.m. every morning. There's a clamscan.sh that runs, right? And this was written by me a while ago. Do you guys have access to this? I've sent all this to you guys, and this is all up in the stuff. But this is my simple little bash script here that goes and it rotates a log file every day, and then it runs a scan and reports it out to our Telegraph instance in this case. I actually need to update this and make it right out to Loki. That would actually be a fun little project. I think that may be part of our next week. Let me put that over here, because we're going to be. Let me Control A this all back to white. All right, hold on. Because we're going to be monitoring and log parsing. So for our question of what lab, say putting together ClamAV installed, running, alerting, or sending info into Loki, right? So we'll install ClamAV, antivirus of some type on our boxes, and then we'll send that info up into Loki. So yeah, I have Wazoo in the environment. We actually run an internal. We have an internal instance of this. Hold on, the wife's calling me, guys. Give me a second. Hey, wifey, you're on stream. What's up?
Oh, no, I was just calling back because I saw I missed your call.
Oh, no, I don't remember what it was about.
Okay, I love you. I'm going to log on to Outlook here right now. Thank you.
Love you, bye.
Love you.
All right. Where were we at? I don't remember where I put it, guys. I gotta go look at, there's a whole instance of it somewhere. Where's Wazoo at? I know it's in his name. Oh, I didn't even bring him up this time. Wazoo 183. All right, hold on. We'll give him a second to come up, because the server itself's not up yet. So we'll give him a second to come up, and then we'll go look at him. But yeah, I do have that in the home lab, but I might not. So since I have to do it with the group, I might not do the Wazoo. I mean, I could show guys how to set it up, I guess. Turn it on. Yeah. But they would be doing it on their own instances. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'll. Might be more of a hassle. Like, I think that's almost one of those ones that we'd have to do inside of the Killer Coda Labs, maybe. That might be a good one, a good candidate for that. We gotta give that guy the server's still coming up, so I had him. All my servers got powered down this weekend. If you guys weren't around for this, so we'll give them all a little bit to come up. Give me a second, guys. I gotta go floss one of my. I ate meat earlier, so hold on a second. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I don't think I missed anything. All right. All right. Grab some water. All right. Back for real now. Also, didn't even realize I had a shirt over the back of my chair. It's kind of funny. All right. Where are we at here? Yeah, AID's a good one. My only problem with AID is I'm running in and that's AIDE. Sorry, I know my closed captioning is not catching it. The only problem I have for AID is definitely going to be the fact that the systems, if they reboot, they don't have a version of anything recovered or known. So, hey Bruce, thanks for that over on the YouTube side. Gift, it's always welcome. I appreciate it. What's your question? Can you show like 5 minutes just how to check my file system ports with my firewall actually working? Yeah. All right. So, I mean, if we're on right here, if let's say you're on a box here, so I'm on the Werewolf server. If you're looking at, check it out. So like Hammer 24, just one of my nodes in my cluster. If you're using a Linux style system, right? You're talking about SS-NTULP, and here's all the ports your system's listening on right here. So the port that you're listening to is here, and then the thing to the left here, before the colon, because the colon's the limiter here, is the address that's listening to it from. So my system here, my Hammer system, could be said to be listening to port 111 from any IPv4 address. That's any IPv4 address. It's also listening to 111 from any IPv6 address. So any IPv4 or IPv6 address that can reach my Hammer 24 box, I will allow connections in on that. Now that is at the system level, right? For you guys, this is system level right here. I also allow 22, which is SSH, on IPv4, and 22 for IPv6. Now, if you want to, you can just drop this forced numeric right here off, so I can actually take the N off, and it'll give me that in the protocol that my system thinks it is. So 22 is SSH, GLRPC is the one that Promtail is using, so that was my 9090, and then this one isn't really identified. And if I really wanted to dig in deeper and say, okay, what's this Sun RPC, I could grep that Sun RPC from Etsy Services and see that this is either port mapper or RPC bind on port 111 typically. Now anything could connect on anywhere technically. Hey, how's it going, Hayes? We're just talking a little bit about ports connecting in. Now this is what my system sees. This is at the system level. This is what's allowed here. Now, if I were to pull up Windows, if you're doing a Windows machine, it's very similar. It's a netstat dash. In our system, it'll be AO. Right here, and this will show everything that is trying to connect or allowing things to connect in my Linux system. That same command right there, even though we're not on Windows for the purposes of this discussion, that would also work on the Windows side of things too. So one of the things that I do if we were talking Windows is I open up all the processes on my system, and if you do this command right here on a Windows machine, it'll show you the process ID, and then you can go find what is mapped and holding open any port on your system. In the Linux world, we don't have that. We have to do something like this. LSOF on port 22-I will tell me, so what's listening on port 22 on my system, and it's all these processes right here, 791 for SSH, and then also it'll show me who's connected in, which is coming in from whatever box. So TCP View 64 on Windows is handy too. Nice, nice. So Bruce, that's a good one. TCP View 64 on Windows. I've never used that one, but that might actually be kind of useful. So yeah, I'm a big fan of using whatever tool is needed for the job. I tell you guys, like as a admin and an engineer, I'm a Linux guy, but I will use any tool to get into Linux. Right? I'll use a Windows machine. I'll use a Mac machine. I'll use a cell phone. I don't care how I get in there. Yeah. Oh, it's part of sysinternals. Nice. Yeah, so this is only part of it, Bruce. How about netstat-ns-l WLAN 0? Yeah, if that's your specific wireless local area network, you could probably use that. Then the next part, there's another part in the Linux side of things, right? Where I would say system CTL status firewall, because a firewall is going to sit outside of this. So these ports are what the system thinks is open right here, right? But what can these ports right here? This is what the system thinks is available up here. These ports. But what'll happen is the firewall is in between that and things that are actually going out. So the firewall is an additional layer of, let's call it, protection, and I should be able to do firewall CMD on most newer NF table style Linux boxes. So anything that's like typically like RHEL 8 or past, firewall-CMD will work. Older systems you might have to use like IP tables. Yeah, Bruce, you can definitely do a TCP dump, but if you're going to use that same syntax, you could TCP dump on -I WLAN 0. So if you do a TCP dump on EN0, that would only work if you had an interface EN0. You'd put that interface next to the -I, right? So, or as an argument against the option -I, right? So I can say list maybe ports here, and then now if I had any ports open, or I might be able to say list zones, right? And I'll get zone, list zone. Get zones, sorry. Get zones. And that'll show me the zones that I have. And I might get like default zone. And that'll tell me it's public, right? I think it's default zones. What? Get default, maybe. There we go. Get default zone. There's my default zone. And then I can go and I can look at very specifically what that's actually showing, and I think it's we can actually do a help here, and it'll just dump a bunch of help to our screen. And if I needed to, I could say get default zone. Yeah, so here's all the stuff about this. I can set my default zone, whatever, and then I might list the zone, or I might get a zone of one particular thing, like one information. So use this to zone or query to, I want maybe info on the zone of public now, right? I go here, boom, public, because that's the one that I have. And this will give me info about, okay, my public zone, which is on my Ethernet 0 interface, right? And it is on, it is active, is only allowing in Cockpit, DHCP v6, and SSH, right, on the system. What if I'm using NF table? Some say NF table acts as a firewall, but before I was using firewall D, and you have to. So, Bruce, all firewall D is a wrapper around NF tables. That's literally all it is. So firewall D doesn't do anything different than NF tables. It just configures them. So, let's see. List all. There you go. Yeah, that's, I do like that too, because then you don't need to find which one it is. So list all would be a good one to use. But now I showed you guys this in the course for the security engineering course, but let me show you guys this. These are tied back to an IP address, and also these are definable. I can actually define this myself. So I can cd to user lib firewall D, right? And then cd to services in there. And now in here, here's all these services. If I go rerun this command, so I see what's there, and then I ls there, I go, okay, so here, if I did more on cockpit.xml, I did more on DHCP v6 client and I did a more on SSH, here's the definition in XML of the cockpit, which is port 9090. Down here is the definition of DHCP version 6, which is going to be port 546. So 9090, 546, and 22 are the only things actually being allowed through this server right here. So I'm using NF table. So I would say use, I've never configured NF tables outside of Firewall D. I've never configured, we used to do IP tables by themselves back in the day. I've never used a separate tool for that. IP tables were always just, we did them straight up. But yeah, the NF table config that I've used only exclusively is Firewall D. When I'm going that route, yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, Bruce. I would also tell you, if you do TCP dump on Linux boxes, if you're not running a Linux desktop, get used to running Wireshark somewhere else, right? Like you can pull anything you need down to your local machine, and then you can run your, whatever type of thing you need, you can run locally and just reopen your .pcap files, right? That's sometimes what we do around here too. Pull down our PCAP files, validate them, and look at them. Yeah, so when you do your TCP dump, you'll do a TCP dump more like, hold on, let me grab this. So I do TCP dump, let's say like this right here, right on this box. Oops. So I go over here, and my TCP dump will look something like this. I'll say that I want to do the interface ETH0. I want to have the full size of the frame that's coming in, and I'll do like 100,000. I'm just going to do 1,000, and I'm going to save them in a file called temp server name.pcap, something like this, right? All right. How do I check with Wireshark? Yeah, so with Wireshark, what I would tell you, Bruce, is more of, just make sure that your systems are locked down to only allow what you want, and then you don't have to worry about the things that you don't want. Also, so I'm going to run this. Oh, I don't have TCP dump on these boxes. I'd have to DNF-y install TCP dump, right? And then I can install it and get it all running on here. What I would tell you, though, and then looking for apps, the apps are just as easy as this, PSEF, and then do like a more, and then just make sure the processes that are started up on your server are what you expect. And you say, well, how would I know that? Well, I mean, you could do, there's a few things that I would do by default, is I would check how my system started up. So systemctl state equals failed maybe, and see nothing failed as it came up, because that's kind of maybe an indicator of something being put on here that shouldn't. I'd go here and I'd look for all the processes that are not started with like the number 1 here. So I'd come down here, 0 or 1 or 2, those are like the basic systems ones. And I would look at this and say, okay, this one has a parent ID that's something else, this SDPAM. Don't know exactly what that is. And SSHD, I know what that is, that's my process, and my bash, that's me coming in. But maybe, what is this thing? I might go dig in a little bit on what this thing is doing, right? So, yeah, Bruce, that's what I would do. I would look, so here's the thing. Literally anything can be anomalous, and that can be a problem in your system. So what I would do, this is my thoughts, is I look for the truth. I look for the good in the system, and then anything else that's aberrant, anything else that's off of what I expect is the problem. Does that kind of make sense? So, Vivana, how's it going over on the Twitch side? Yeah, we're just looking at systems and kind of checking stuff out. Yeah, Bruce, what I would tell you, there's a few ways to go about that. If I was worried about a box being compromised, what I might do is take it off the network, especially if it's just a virtual machine. I could take it off the network, and I can look for what connections it's trying to establish. So you can take things off of like your normal network, or you can block them from being able to leave your network, and just see what kind of things they try to establish, right? Just kind of see what those processes are doing. if you do your SS, right? If you do an SS-NT-ULP maybe. Oh, here. Oh, this is up, by the way, over here. This other one. So there's my Wazoo app coming up. And then I think we were admin, and then we had some long password here. Let me go see if I can find it. Find it in all open docs. I think I have a long password somewhere for this. Let me see here. Yeah, here's our Wazoo server because we were talking about it earlier. Just worried because years ago. Yeah. So what I would do is I would check this SSNTULP, and I would make sure that there's nothing here that's listening, right? And you can also, the main thing, make sure that there's nothing there. There's also the is it O? I gotta look at where I know it's netstat AO. This will show you with netstat. You can also see any established, sockets and servers that are established. So you can look through here as well. But you can really just sit around and make sure that everything looks kind of the way that you expect. And then if you build your systems right, if you're ever worried about any of this stuff, you just wipe your servers and restart. That's what I'd kind of advise, Bruce. But I mean, like, one of the main things I tell people is anything you're going to run that you want to have be secured, like let's say you are going to run your Bitcoin or your wallet operations out of somewhere, I would tell you to just make sure that you understand and have your system secured to whatever level that you want it to be. Hey, how's it going, Alex? We are just co-working today. We're not working super hard. I'm kind of actually monitoring some stuff that I'm reviewing in a different window, so we're just kind of hanging out, doing some Linux stuff. Vivana said, how's the system been doing since my power outage? Everything back to normal? Yeah, I think everything's back to normal. We just turned on the Wazoo server, so that's up. I didn't really do much with this for monitoring everything, but it does have some of our stuff involved here. And then I also had turned on, like on Ranger Cam, like our Nagios monitoring is now on. So that's kind of cool. Although we're really just using Ranger Cam to make sure that Ranger's doing good downstairs. If you guys don't know, Ranger's like a 13 and some change-year-old. I think he's almost 14 this year, so he's getting old. I think his birthday's October. We got it written down somewhere. We got his birth certificate. Me and the wife do. But anyways, he's a good dog, and he's kind of old now. But yeah, that's what we're doing around here, guys. We're just hanging out. I was answering Bruce's question over on the YouTube side. Finding the threats are labeled as system processes, so like rootkits. Yeah, so Bruce, the way I would find, if you're really worried about rootkits, build your server over. That's the first thing I would tell you. I have good server build processes in my environment where, like, if you guys have been around, I've built these servers from scratch, right? These container images of Werewolf from their base ones that I get directly from CIQ. So if I suspected something on one of my nodes, I reboot it, and that server will come back up as a clean system with no builds or with no problems or whatever. So what I would tell you is, like, build your systems, and then obviously you have to have a level of, it depends on the amount of trust you're going to have with any system. But you're going to only have whatever comes vanilla with that OS. I trust Rocky and CIQ. Most of us trust RHEL and SLES as far as that goes as well. So, it's one of these things where you got to trust something. And then, yeah, there's an RK Hunter that you can do. But for me, really, I would just tell you, make sure that your system's clean, and then have a process to make it clean again if you're worried about somebody getting access to it. If you're really worried about your system protection, then we start to talk about air gapping and stuff, which is what we actually did this week in our Prolog meeting. We had a big setup for the whole all that stuff. Alex said, I recently bought my first tower server for Home Lab, set up currently having everything in a single Linux bridge, but want to start sectioning stuff off. That any public services I want to have, like Pterodactyl panel, can be isolated Think about having all my home lab stuff go through OpenSense container with CrowdSec. Is CrowdSec the thing? I thought it was CrowdStrike, but is CrowdSec a different thing? Because that's the second time I've seen that today, and I was wondering if you guys were talking CrowdStrike, but maybe you are talking CrowdSec. Okay, all right. Is that the name of the company? I swear it was CrowdStrike. It's okay. I don't know. But an OpenSense container and CrowdSec, and then subnet for bank. Yeah. So you can 100%, Alex. I'm a big fan of OpenSense. I think it's great. Limitations I had with OpenSense for me was I didn't have the ability in my home lab and the way I have it structured to have two different interfaces with like true VLAN between it, and OpenSense requires at least two interfaces. So if you can do that, that's awesome. And so CrowdSec is different than CrowdStrike. Okay. I'm a big fan of not using CrowdStrike. Oh, I did not say CrowdSex. What the hell? Oh God. Then my closed caption gets me kicked off Twitch. Probably want to get me kicked off of YouTube because I doubt it kept. Yeah. And there's Cold Kiss. Because Cold Kiss always comes out as Cold Kiss. Oh my God. There it goes. Yeah, so anyways, the one time I got kicked off of Twitch for this. That's funny. Yeah, Bruce, so I don't have a desktop Wireshark. If I were going to show you that, I'd have to show you it on a Linux or on a Windows box that I have. I don't run Linux desktop. So I could show you how to do Wireshark to collect anything on a system. Yeah, I mean, hold on real quick. I'm going to have to go over to my streaming stuff real quick. Hold on. Give me a second here. So let me pull this up real quick. I'll pull it up like this, and then I'll just pull up Wireshark for you. So Wireshark wants to, by default, guys, capture everything. So, whoops. Give me a second here. I think Wireshark also wants to update, which I don't want to do right now. So I know this is a blast. I know it's bright. But I can just go right here and say, okay, let's capture Wireshark, right? Oh, Jesus Christ. This fucking application. So we can just capture... Hold on. Jeez. That's super hassle. Super annoying. Hold on. Super annoying. We're going to be on Wi-Fi now. So let's go to Wi-Fi. Alright. That is super annoying. There's my Wi-Fi, right? So here's what's happening in my lab right now, or in my system right now. I know that's like an explosion of like disco. I get it. But if you wanted to see any one application, it would come after. So, Bruce, what you would do, this is the network in real time right here, right, Bruce? This is your network in real time right here. So then when you're done, you stop it, right? So you would take a slice of this, let's say like a few minutes on my lab here, my home lab. This is everything. I'm running everything out of my box right now. Oh, does it have a dark mode? I guess I've never actually tried to run it in, let's go look. Hold on. I've never even tried to run it in dark mode. I'm pretty sure I had looked at this before. I guess I can switch everything if I wanted to. I've never looked for dark mode, and I've never looked for dark mode in here. I've always just sucked it up and done it in light mode. If I had known that I could do this in dark mode, I would have been running this in dark mode for years. Yeah, I didn't know they had one. I guess I can. I mean, I can change some of this. But anyways, let's look at this real quick. So there's a few things that I wanted to show you if you're not using Wireshark much. once you stop Wireshark, right, like it's going to have the whole PCAP. In this case, it captured it with an NG on the end. I can save this, right? I can always file save this somewhere. But one thing that I want to do is I want to analyze real quick, even before I do anything else. Sorry, statistics first. And I can just do all of the protocols, all of the stuff that's going on in the system, I can look at, right? So for me, I want to look at IPv4. I can do all addresses, or I can limit it down. But let's say all addresses here. And I can see all the places that my system was talking to, right? And how much traffic was going to each, and what devices were talking between my system and others, and all the connections that were happening. So this is one high-level way to kind of start to filter down what's going on, right, within my system. All IPv4 statistics, and I can dig in, right? Then, if I had any one communication that I was watching for, like up here I can start to filter for just TCP sessions and just to certain places. And you can go, there's a lot of PCAP filter stuff that you can get good at as far as I want to just track things outside of this network. Then I can go and I can right click, and I like to do this, I'll follow a stream. So I'll just look at this one TCP stream for how the communication occurred. I can see how many times it communicated and over so long. The Alpaca said Wireshark is totally dark mode aware for me. I run dark mode even on my home Windows. Like my system's set in dark mode, so a lot of my stuff automatically captures dark mode, but I didn't know that Wireshark would do it. I probably also have a very old version of Wireshark. I literally just use Wireshark for some of my college classes. Yeah, I have a very old version of Wireshark. I have no doubt of that. But I can go look at any of these, and what it'll do is what it did was it dropped me in that direct frame, so I can see down in, inside the frame, and then the Ethernet 2 that we're obviously using. I'm using IPv4. Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody outside of my network. And what was the traffic doing? So we're using RTMP, real-time messaging protocol, and there's a header, and then there's some body information that's maybe not that interesting, but if I see traffic that doesn't look like what I expect, this starts to be something that's super useful. So one of the things I always tell people to check, especially if you suspect problems in your network, go look at the things that are actually talking in your environment. Like, oh, I don't think my system, like this locked down system should not be talking to anything outside of my home environment. Well, shit, I don't know what you think you're talking to, but here's all the places for sure that I was talking to outside of this system. That's a lot of communication outside of my home lab. All this 192 stuff internally is not a problem. Not the 192, 178, that's something else. But then who am I talking to? Okay, there's some device internal to my network that I'm talking to a lot. What's going on there, right? And then I can just come in here. Oh, statistics inside of Wireshark. This is one of your best ways to see high-level stuff that's going on. And then if I said, hey, hold on, I don't know if I'm actually talking. I think I have IPv6 set up. Well, am I talking to IPv6? Nope, I'm not really talking. I have it set up. I could, but I'm not. Yeah, you guys have, like, Wireshark is not, like, this is not, like, my grandparents' Wireshark anymore. Like, I've been using Wireshark since, like, 2000, like, early 2000s, like, in my CCNA, when I did all that stuff back in the day. There is so much more stuff than when I started, guys. You can really get in here and dig into, like, what's going on inside of a system. You want to map your source and destination traffic to see how much you're talking. Now, we're in a non-promiscuous environment right now, meaning that my server is only listening to things that it can see on the Wi-Fi. But if I was down in my server space, right? So if I went down to my servers over here, and in here, I went and I looked around, right? And I did I'm going to do a DNF-y install TCP dump again. I can use this system to capture everything that's on a... if any of the switches are flooding, which they are inside of most virtual machines by default, I should be able to see all the traffic, not just from my system anymore, down here. So, yeah, I need to play with the interface thing, because, yeah, I do flashbang my students, but I don't care if I flashbang my college students. I try not to flashbang you guys too much, but, yeah, look at all this stuff we can see. We can go look by protocol, we can go look by destination and source, and just see what's kind of going on. What if you have a VPN? So like 200. Yeah. So Bruce, if you were tracking with, for me, if I was trying to capture two interfaces on a Linux box, I would just have two different TCP dumps running. I don't know if like a base Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi. I don't know if a base Wireshark like this will capture on two interfaces. I don't think you can. But oh yeah, also it'll turn on promiscuous mode if it's allowed to. So my system was promiscuously grabbing all of the WPA2 traffic that it could in this Wi-Fi 2 network, right? And also I'm the .47 now. Okay, I'm used to being .65 in my home lab, but I'm also off the local connection, so. Yeah, so if you have multiple connections, maybe, let's see actually, will this connect on multiple? Yeah, apparently it will. So you could have multiple interfaces then, and then you can capture both each way. And then for you would really be concerned with the things I would care about is I would go look at this, and then I would start to figure out how much traffic was going upstream and downstream and see if that's what I expect. Bruce said, how do you check for IP leaks or DNS leaks? Well, I guess, so my main thing would be you control resolution, right? So cat etsy resolve.conf. You control where your systems resolve if you're doing Linux, right? On the Windows side, I'm not sure exactly where that happens in Windows. I don't do a lot of Windows management anymore. I have earlier in my career, and I don't really advertise it much, but what I would be doing is making sure my systems are talking to who I trust and who I expect, right? It's on the interface config in Windows ncpa.cp. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm sure if I poked around a little bit, I could find it or whatever. But but down here in the Wireshark, you would be able to see as a statistics, if we started to break this down, right? Like I can start to go and see how much of the traffic is for any one location, and then I can start using, like I could use whois and figure out who this IP address is. Am I talking to things? Now obviously I'm streaming on this box right now, so this box is talking to a tremendous amount of things that I would not normally expect it to be talking to right now. In fact, I suspect some of this is actually the communication in the IPC of the actual channels for both the YouTube and the Twitch, right? But in general, like what I would tell you is, like, if you control servers, you control where they resolve from. You need to make sure that your DNS, if you're running internal DNS, trusts whoever you're getting upstream from. A lot of us try to use 8.8.8, the 4.4.4, and the 1.1.1 because we trust those, organizations for that. There's some DNSSEC stuff that you can set up. No, that is SEC. Oh my God, I'm going to get kicked out for DNSSEC. It's SEC, SEC. Although I did say sex the one time. But anyways, the DNS security can be put in place if you want for your systems. But hopefully, Bruce, that answers some of your questions. Also, we do have a networking section down in our Discord. If you go in Discord, I have a fair amount, not a whole lot because there's not as many people interested in networking, but I do have a fair amount of like networking stuff that I talk about and kind of show you guys, and sometimes I'll put up little questions down here for you guys to like look through and think about things. But really, at the end of the day, if you want to get good at a lot of that network engineering stuff, you're going to have to want to really spend some time in there kind of getting your hands on it. Can I do a full stream for Wireshark? I don't think you have much video. I don't have much videos on Wireshark. I could do that someday. I would start to, if I did that, I would be a little off of my normal Linux type talks, but I would definitely show you guys Wireshark and walk around in there if you guys wanted. Also, I've shown you guys this before. This is a fun one. If Bruce, if you're suspecting, like, and this is more for if you're doing voice over IP, right? But let me open a specific one of these. Hold on. Oh, come on, get out of here. This thing's taking its time. Wait for the program to respond. I want to open a recent, and the system's frozen up. Wireshark sometimes does that, especially when you have really large, let's say open recent, and I'm going to pull up, this is from one of my Where's this capture? Yeah, this one. Let's continue without saving, so we're going to throw all that other stuff away. I just want to show you this real quick. If we get this, this is a recorded voice over IP with RTP, which is real-time transport protocol. RTP is real-time transport protocol. And hold on. I don't want that anymore. Let's get rid of that. So here is the session initiation protocol, which is the handshake for how we start a voice over IP call. And then we're not using SRTP. We're just using real-time transport protocol, not secure real-time transport protocol. So you can come up to telephony and voice over IP calls, and you can replay this call. So listen to this. This is the most disturbing voice I've ever heard come out of a computer. Oh, this is freaky. I don't like doing this when I'm by myself at home, but listen, I'll do it during the day.
Hello, world.
That's creepy as shit.
Hello, world.
You guys hear that?
Hello, world. Hello, world.
That is like a disjointed, like, woman trapped in a computer voice.
Hello, world.
And she's saying hello world in like the creepiest.
Hello, world.
Anyways. This is, yeah, so if you're listening, if you can get to promiscuous mode, so this is why, if you have a compromised server, you have things that are dangerous that people can do. Now, it's not that much extra overhead nowadays to run SRTP, so this probably isn't going to be a likely exploit or attack that you guys are going to run into. But my point in showing you guys this is there's a tremendous amount of things that you can come in here and do with your systems, right? Statistics is easily one of my favorite things. So I can get all the sources and I can see where my system's talking to. And in this one, there were 2 sources only. But in other ones, and if I had done that bigger one, there was all this other stuff. Yeah, like Wireshark's its own beast, man. Some people go spend, a bunch of money. They'll go not spend a bunch of money, but like Udemy or something. They'll go actually dig in on this a lot. I've never put together, like Bruce, I've never run like a big course on it, but I mean, we could definitely, I could show you guys more about pulling stuff out of our Linux boxes and looking at it, because really like your Wireshark, this is where our network engineers live big time. But then us Linux engineers, if we want to like make sure that the traffic that we expect to be happening over here is happening, we can dump our TCP dumps to PCAP files and open them over here. In fact, I have an example of that a while back. I was doing like a Kali box locally, and then I was using this to show you guys everything that my Kali box could dump off my network. So this was my Kali box when he was, what was he? He was 192.168.11.68 in my network, and he was just basically hanging out in promiscuous mode listening to everything. And then we can start to really do that. But for you, Bruce, it sounds like you mostly want to do defensive stuff in your environment. And what I would tell you is the number one thing is spend time in your environment and learn your tools. Start to look for what's a normal operating system and a normal functioning system, and then make sure that nothing's able to change that, right? So that's kind of stuff. Yeah. So I'm sorry if I'm missing stuff on the left. I'm over here on the right answering stuff on YouTube, but also, yeah, Alex, we've got a Discord that has some pretty good home lab stuff in there, I think. For you guys that haven't been in my home lab or don't know aren't super familiar, I run a tool called XCPNG. I'll probably move it to Proxmox one of these days. I have somewhere around 50, probably about 55 servers in my environment that are available for you guys. They run behind a tool called Werewolf. So if we come over here and we look, so this is my home lab. Let me save that off real quick, and then I'll show you guys this. Let me save to disk, save to file. That's my Linux security engineering course. And I will open this other one here. Hold on, load from a file. We're gonna go to, what's our home lab look like? Here's our logic drawing. Somebody asked me a while back. Oh, god damn, that got set to white mode. Dark mode, here we go. Somebody asked me a while back to pull this up for you guys, or to draw this out for you. But this is kind of what the home lab looks like for me, right? People come in through the internet. They come in as Streamer or MC Hammer. They jump in through a Bastion server, which is currently still P01 Jump 01, but it's slowly becoming P Bastion. and then they can jump into any of our admin course boxes, which are the Rocky boxes, and any of the security boxes, which are the Hammer boxes. And then we have some different stuff going on in the environment that they can kind of jump into and mess with. So do attack range malware analysis stuff using Ludus. Nice. There's nothing wrong with any of that. I think that's all great. I think Werewolf is an up and coming tool that I'm building a lot of it in the government space. I'm telling you guys, like, a lot of it. Like, I have probably about 10,000. When I say 10,000 systems, I don't mean the individuals. That's the individual nodes. I've probably built 10 different clusters now with probably over 10,000 individual nodes on Werewolf. So Werewolf has kind of been really up and coming recently. And if you're looking it up, it's WEREWULF. So when you guys see me spell it wrong and you're like, oh, this guy doesn't know how to spell werewolf, I do for the CIQ version. And the CIQ guys are the same guys that run Rocky, so it fits well with the Rocky stuff. So, Bruce, how do I configure my Wireshark? I let it just be the base system. I just let it connect and gather whatever. I don't have any special configurations in here. There's no specific profiles or anything. I just tell it to listen to whatever interface and gather everything. Because my network engineering time, which it's been a while, I can start that off for you, Bruce, a little bit. Yeah, so all I would say is if you're coming from a Linux side of things, this is how you kind of do this, right? You start off with Wireshark like this, or let's talk with TCP dump first. So you would do something like this for TCP dump, and I'm going to do a smaller set, like I only want maybe 100 frames here, right? And I'm just going to gather everything that happens on the system real quick. So here's the quick and dirty, and I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to SSH back into, what is that? That's Hammer 24, right? And then maybe on this box I'll just ping like, so we're just going to send some traffic out to Google for a bit. So then over here we're gathering all that traffic that's happening or whatever, right? Whatever we kind of want to do. Yeah. I use a lot of Werewolf core wired. Yeah. So. We did Open LDAP last week in one of our security engineering courses. I have not ever set up Keycloak on stream, no. I actually built Keycloak a couple weeks ago. I think it was actually on stream when I got it running, but I didn't set it up on stream. So, yeah, core wired, it's not, like, it comes from what was called Beowulf before. So, all right, real quick, guys. So we're over here. We're getting this, we just got this ping running over here. We're just gathering whatever we want on this box. And then we're going to take this server PCAP file and we're going to pull it out and we're going to go throw it in Wireshark because Bruce wants us to. So I'll pull that up real quick for you guys. So give it a second real quick here. This is going to finish. And if I wanted to speed this up, I could do something like this. Let's say for I in sequence 1 to like 1,000 do ping ampersand done, right? I could do this, just blow it up. So now that's finished. So now we've got this file here and we got to pull it back. So we're going to exit out of here. We're going to SCP Hammer 24 temp server name .pcap. I think I should have named that, but I'll go ahead and do it right here. We'll say temp, and we're going to bring it to this local server on hammer24.pcap, right? So now that's going to come down over here. I'll stop this. I'll exit out of here, and we'll go over here. We'll SSH from Scott at Werewolf temp and hammer24.pcap. But before I pull that down, I need to check something. It is 644, so it's readable, right? So I'm going to pull that down to here, and let's pull it down to temp. All right, Werewolf Scott at Werewolf. What? Scott at Werewolf. Hold on. What? Oh, SCP, guys. All right, so then my password over there is something like that, and that'll pull it down. Now, the last hop for this is down to a Windows box, so that's CMD. Right, I'll pull up the Windows side for you guys, and that's going to look like this. So I'm going to CD to maybe my downloads, pscp.exe, and that's going to be schampine at 192.168.11.245, and then temp and hammer 24.pcap to here, right? So we'll pull that file the last way down. Boom. So now, so the question was, could we do like a little thing with Wireshark? So let's pull up Wireshark real quick in our environment. Did it literally close? Or is it sitting over here? Hold on. Nope, it did. Where'd it go? All right, well, Wireshark died. Let's go to Wireshark. Pull it up. Sure. All right. So now I'm going to open a file, and I'm going to open that file from my downloads, which was the hammer. So this is all the stuff that was just captured over here in my Linux box. So here we created a server name.pcap file. We copied it down and gave it a name. Then we had to copy it over to my local machine here. Right, we copied it down to the local machine, and then we did the last little hop in. Again, we had to do a little bit of little Windows stuff here to get it down that last hop. I tell you guys all the time, being able to push things and pull things in and out of Linux, it's an important skill. I would tell you the same thing if you were on a Mac. You need to know how to pull things in and out of your Mac and your Linux environment, even across long distances all over the planet. You have to know how to do this stuff. Okay. One way of doing authentication on Linux without using Windows Active Directory. Well, you can always, once you have access to a system, you can push a key, and then the key is all you need. That'll work. But then I came over here and I just opened the file. I just said open hammer24.pcap, and now here's all the stuff that's happening in that connection. That would be the first start for you, Bruce, if you're doing it over on the YouTube side, is just how do I gather all the data? You know, how do I get all the data from this machine? And how do I get it all the way down to a local machine? Now, I had to do some hops because in my home lab, I'm kind of far removed from all the different system. And then I come over here, and now I've got all of this. We can do that same statistics thing we did earlier to see what my system was doing. My system did about 146 calls out to 8.8.8.8, so that was name resolution every time we did a ping. It did some talking to 192.178.49.164, which one of these could possibly be, we can go investigate what all these are, but here's how much of the traffic was going to each of these different things. And 100% of the traffic went to 174, which means that this was, you know, the number of that device. So if I went back over here and said, go to hammer, he is the 174. It makes sense. If 100% of traffic went to 174, that makes sense that he was either the source or the destination in every frame. Well, at that layer, he's the packet, but that's fine. Most of his stuff was talking to 192.168.200.25, which is actually the Werewolf server in that environment. So if I knew that this is where all the traffic was going, or should be going, then there's that. I also talked to 192.168.11.180 25 times, and I might say, well, what the heck is that doing? Well, I can go see how my system was talking to that. Or maybe I know in my home lab environment. So if I go maybe to opt promtail ls and more promtail local config.yaml, maybe I know that that is my Loki box that I actually push my messages to. So during our capture time, we had 25 messages sent off to Loki to track my logging of the system, right? So yeah, so these are the things that I would do. I would check, again, always check your statistics inside of TCP or inside of Wireshark, because your statistics will let you know how all over the place something is. Is it just talking to the things that it should, or is it it's potentially compromised, these may be all over the place. It would not take me long to go pick this up and go look at like whois.net and see who has these. And maybe I find that these are all like with some local internet provider, and I'm like, okay, those are things that I expect my system to talk to. But when I was at AAA, I saw boxes get compromised by people out in like Eastern Bloc European countries that are like bordering Europe and Asia, that part of the world, and we would have all kinds of weird IP addresses, but we could track down at least where the block ranges came from, and then at that point it depends how much you really want to know about what happened, or if you just want to actually stop the attack and protect your system from more problems, that kind of stuff, right? So we do this, right? We get our statistics. I can come in here and I can filter here by all kinds of things. So maybe I go down here and I say TCP, and I should be able to create filter expressions here. Oh, now it's going all slow. Hold on. And I can come in here and I can start to figure out what I want to look for. So is something present? All these kind of things. So I might look for, I think I can look in here, TCP. If I knew specific ports, let's say I wanted TCP is present, and I just hit OK. And that'll filter down for TCP, or, you can start to build these. You don't have to memorize all the stuff. You can actually see things here that are around. So I might say, in this case, I might say protocol equals TCP, right? And that should limit it down to only TCP type traffic, right? Is that not right? I thought it was protocol. Yeah, should be protocol. Shouldn't be case sensitive. You might be able to do EQ like that as well. And then it'll limit it down to only things that are TCP, based, that kind of stuff. So, how's it going, Miss Sapphire, over on the Twitch side as well? Does it show the apps that have IP4 telemetry? No, but you'll be able to see the destination if something's leaving your network. I think that's very, very useful. You can filter by the source and the destination to see if something is traffic that's local or not. I think that's pretty useful. I don't know why I'm messing that up. Maybe it's, no, it shouldn't be protobuf. No, that's not right. I thought it was just proto. That shouldn't do it either, though. No, I thought it was just protocol, but apparently we can't do it based on just protocol there. So, anyways, but you can come in here and you can filter all these things by all these different stuff. Yeah, look, we're looking by sources, destinations. This will also tell us, like, if I had a bunch of devices that were all D6 to D92, like I knew all my devices in my network had this, I'd also be able to use that, because MAC addresses, so some of you guys know, MAC addresses are locally unique. They have to be locally unique. They don't have to be globally unique, because a MAC address never leaves the next hop, but you do have to have them locally unique. So it is useful to kind of look at this. All right, so this is, this is one of these things where we can see, we can also get used to what our network kind of looks like, and we can know if there is a tremendously high, maybe there's a tremendously high amount of like ARP traffic, or maybe even reverse address resolution protocol, and we may know that one of our switches is starting to have an incident or an issue because there's an unusually high amount of that traffic in relation to other. That's another reason the statistics thing comes in so much, is because if I'm looking for my protocols here, right? If I go look at my statistics and I'm used to my protocols being, approximately 17 and 68%, but for some reason I see 99% on none because these are things doing something else, I'll start to get like a feel for what a normal network is. So if we capture TCP dumps throughout the month maybe, and we go and we reference them and look at them later, we can see this. Also, obviously this is for spot checking and stuff. You could go and generate, you could use a tool. There's a bunch of ways to look at these filters, like ngrep is a way, and you could filter down and generate some of those reports yourself and just say, hey, this is what my own healthy network looks like, right? You guys can do as much or, as little digging in on that as you kind of want. But I think for me, it starts with over here. Do I know how to capture? Do I know how to start a PCAP, right? And capture a TCP dump on a box, or it's a TCP dump, right? But getting a PCAP file. Then do I know how to move that PCAP file out of my system down to, a system where I have a GUI of some type and I can look at all this? Does using Nmap help with Wireshark? Well, it depends. So I always tell people Nmap is useful if you don't have privileged access to a box. So like if I'm on Jumpbox here and I want to Nmap over to 192.168.200.200.25, that is my, let's say /32. Well, we just do it like that. My system here will scan that server, and it will tell me what ports my system's able to see open, right? But that's when I don't have privileged access. If I have privileged access, and here's Werewolf. This is my actual server of the /25. I can do an ss-ntulp and see what my system's listening on. So I always tell people Nmap and any of these type of Netcat, it's Netcat under the hood. These type of tools are great if you don't have privileged access. They're part of that kind of stuff where we do, this would be what we would call either black or gray box testing. But if I have root, this is my white box stuff. I have full privilege access to see everything on the box. And this is what I would do. So yeah, Wireshark may have some scanning of specific boxes. I never tried to use that. I'm not sure if it actually has any of that built into it. But for me, I mostly care, about the statistics of the systems. How healthy are they? Are they actually trying to talk to the systems that we expect them to? Am I following? Because I'll follow through on like a TCP connection, and I'll go use, where's the analyze follow? I'll follow TCP to make sure that at the top it started with a proper handshake, which it did. It always has to. We have to have a SYN, a SYN-ACK, and an ACK to talk. And then at the end, we should have, at the very end, we should have, if everything happened right, we should have our FIN-ACK, and all that being taken apart, which I'm not necessarily seeing here. Maybe the communication was still going when we got done. So, yeah, there you go. Does nload, I'm not sure, what is that? If top and bmon help. So Bruce, they're all tools, right? They're all tools. Whatever, I would tell you, don't have all the tools in the world. Just have the ones that you know how to use and make sense for like what you're trying to figure out. But for me, like trying to secure systems is a large topic. In fact, it's one of the ones that I'm teaching in the this course right here, right? This Prolog course here is securing our Linux systems, right? That's the main thing that we do. And there's a lot of components to it. There's locking it down to like a STIGs standard. So here's the STIGs for let's get rid of this filter. Here's the 401 STIGs that you would use if you were locking down like a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 box. Sorry, did I say 5? 9. Yeah, 9. So RHEL 9 box here. There's 401 STIGs for how we would harden this box. Now, does hardening a box mean it's never going to be compromised? Absolutely not. It's just best practices for us to do that. And this was a big part of what we did in the course, was like, running people through all these things. Yeah, no, Bruce, I would tell you this stuff here, Wireshark is what's really happening to the system and what's really happening on the network, right? So all the other tools that we can put in place, like I do an ss-ntulp and I see that everything's good, and then I see only the processes that I expect to be running on a server, sure. But then when I turn on Wireshark, I see what's actually happening in real time. Wireshark is like you with a camera watching the actual, network flow and seeing everything. So if something's happening here with Wireshark, but you're not seeing it, like with some tool, either that tool's not working or something is stopping it from working properly, because Wireshark is what's really happening on your network, right? If that kind of makes sense, at least for whatever your system's able to see. So yeah, hopefully that kind of shows you. I mean, the setup is just download it, run it. You can run it locally on a machine, but much more valuable to me is, can I go pull from another server? Can I go generate the file from somewhere else and then pull it out and like forensically look at what's happening? And I've had to do that professionally, right? Like sometimes the storage team is telling me that something should be happening, and the security team is telling me that something else should be happening, and we're just not seeing maybe backups. Like I've actually had this as an exact example before. The new backup software from the same vendor was not working properly, and come to find out, I go do a TCP dump and we're sitting there on a call and we pull it up and nope, none of the traffic's going to that new set of servers that it's supposed to go to. Come to find out that the pre-sales engineer, so nothing wrong with this, but this is how it happened. The pre-sales engineer just populated an IP address with the old one just to have somewhere to send data, and then nobody else later ever changed it. And it worked because it was still sending data to their older system, but they were like scratching their heads and they're like, look, everything's up, everything's good, the system's running its checks, but we were sending data to the old system because somebody had populated early on in the process. This was a human error, right? A person just populated with an old server that they knew that they could test on, and when it was ready to go, they never flipped that IP to the new server or the new set of servers. Bruce, you said you like to monitor each app so you understand what it's doing in the background. Yeah, so you can always see what an app has open. I sometimes show you guys this, right? So I can, so let's say on this system, we see that it's port 9090 is being held open by something. So I can do an LSOF on -I port 9080 rather. And I can see that that's this Promtail service, right? Well, there's a few things I can do with Promtail then. I can do an strace if I really want to dig in. And I think it's -P and then it's the PID maybe, 902. And I should be able to strace and see what that process is doing. So we could sit here and hang out and watch it make system calls or sit here and wait. When it finally gets a change to whatever networks, right? And watch, I'll go over here real quick and I'll SSH into Hammer 24 so that over here it's got to send some logging, right? And when it sent that logging, it found it in varlog secure, and then it was going to go and it was going to send that over where it needed to go. And maybe we could validate that it's batching or it's doing whatever, right? We don't care much, but that we know that it's reading the things properly as other stuff is happening. I know Bruce is on YouTube, but that is the exact reason, knowing how software works, I use mostly open source. Yeah, that's actually a good point, yeah. With open source, you can compile the stuff and you can go in and actually see what's changing and what's happening under the hood. So now I could strace that. I can also ltrace it to see what library called. I don't have ltrace. DNF, what provides ltrace, will tell us where we get the command from. Then DNF install -y ltrace. We'll put that on our system, right? Because it's just our little home lab system. We do whatever we want in here. And then I can ltrace that same port and just see if it's doing any library calls. And over here, I might exit and re-log in and then come over here and see what this thing is doing, right? And maybe it's just a fun little exercise if you've never done it, to kind of just track what your programs are doing in your system. Yeah. It's just doing sig urgent IO condition. It's, who knows if it's even doing much in there right now. It's just watching for IO conditions against that file, right? And then, yeah, it doesn't look like it's doing anything here, right, as far as calling libraries. Bruce said, so how does telemetry actually work in terms of data being sent? How can we list every possible IP because most apps sent crash logs, etc.? Yeah, so Bruce, so telemetry is an interesting bear, right? I have some labs on telemetry and stuff, but let's go at a high level real quick. Show you guys something at a very high level here for telemetry. And in my home lab, this is how telemetry is sent, right? I use different tools, right? And this is the way that like some of this stuff over here works. Like if you're looking at how the systems are, you know, how used they are, how much CPU and memory and all that kind of stuff. So telemetry, for anybody that doesn't know, is just data at a distance, right? It's just metrics or data being sent from a distance. That's all telemetry is. So I have an ingest tier on any server. I've got a storage tier in the middle, and then I've got a way to present it with Grafana. So I have labs on this, and I have a whole bunch of presentations that show you guys monitoring type stuff. But the presentation layer is how we're going to show whatever we want to show out to the system, out to the users. Right, here's a bunch of logging and logging here. And then there's my dog Ranger. He's being monitored too. All this kind of stuff is going on, right? But we can ingest data with agents. So Telegraph agent is sending data over to InfluxDB, which is a time series database. You can have a Promtail agent pushing data to Loki. You can have Prometheus scraping data from Node Exporter or any of the hundreds of exporters, maybe even 1,000 exporters nowadays that exist for Prometheus, right? And then Grafana comes in and queries from there in different languages. So it uses LogQL for Loki. It uses PromQL. I actually need to fix this. I haven't updated this in a long time, but it's PromQL, a Prometheus query language that it uses here to query out of Prometheus. And then we can go look at Prometheus and all that stuff, but it's just important here to understand this is going to batch and send information in case this is down. If Prometheus is down, every 10 seconds that it's down, this data is lost forever. We'll never get it back because Node Exporter doesn't keep the data. It shares it and changes it every chance it gets, right? So anyways, this is kind of the gist of that. And then Bruce, really you can just watch, like if you set up some agents and storage and stuff to track what's going on with your systems, then yeah, I mean, telemetry data can cause bottlenecks, but I'll tell you anymore nowadays, I've never seen telemetry data rise above 1% on a system. So, Miss Sapphire said, how do you manage the storage from all logs? The storage isn't too bad. You can keep track of rolling storage. So there's compression automatically in Prometheus. Loki also does chunking and storage compression itself. And InfluxDB, I actually don't know how that manages compression. I've never looked into that. I've never really bothered to dig into that. But if we come over here, how's Prometheus doing? He's got, yeah, he's barely using. He's got only 13 gigs being used of his space, and he's doing all this stuff. So this is all Prometheus. But my Prometheus by default only goes back. Actually, wait, do I have Prometheus? This is all Telegraph actually. Let me go look. Yeah, that's actually Telegraph under the hood. So Prometheus is doing, what's Prometheus doing in my home lab? Hold on. He is, let's go look because I haven't shown this in a while. So Prometheus is doing how many days of data is he doing? If we go back to 30 days, I think we run out right after 30. So we'll go to 90 days. I think we run out. Yeah, he's doing 30 days worth of data. And for all of my home lab, he's able to compress that and see all that. So that's pretty good. Yeah, it does fill up over time. Yeah, so Bruce, I guess with this, so some people are worried about telemetry and privacy, but I would tell you it really depends on, you know, what kind of data you're trying to send out of your system. Most of the data for how used a system is what we would call ephemeral. like it doesn't really matter, except to me, and only for like capacity later. Saying they spy, you can clear this up because a lot of people worried about them being. Well, I mean, yeah, Bruce, I would tell you, like, I would say more like you lock down your systems and then you just validate that the systems are not communicating to things that they shouldn't be communicating with. And that's relatively safe for most people, I think. Some organizations we have to deal with like a FIPS compliance where all processing in and out, FIPS, Federal Information Processing Standards. Sometimes we have to adhere to those, and that causes some other things. But I'd say for like the average user in like a home lab environment and that kind of stuff, you can get away with leaving this a little more open. And then really you just make sure that your agents are talking to only who you expect them to. So these agents explicitly only talk to who they should. My node exporter could be locked down with scraping configs and only allowing people with the proper certificate to pull data, but I'm not that deep on that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, people worrying about their data at that level, I guess probably don't necessarily understand that people are trying to get at your they're not trying to get at your telemetry data. They're trying to get at your system data, your user databases, your password stuff. That's the kind of stuff people are really going after. The telemetry data, like how well your system is or isn't working, that's less of something people are going to be hitting. So, oh, secret asked, sir, will there be a session for Linux job interview questions this week? I hadn't actually thought about it. I can do one Saturday if we wanted, because the wife's going out of town just Saturday night. And coming back Sunday, so I could do one Saturday night after the Linux group. So yeah, I can put one on the calendar. Yeah, let me go. Oh, by the way, guys, I haven't even been mentioning this, but we got Discord. You guys can hang out. I think the system's been telling you, but there's a Discord you guys can hang out with. Let me drop it over on the Twitch side and the YouTube side. Boom, there you go. So yeah, I'll make an event. Hold on. Create event. We'll do it in a voice channel. We'll do in Linux chat. We'll do it interview. So Linux interview practice session, and we'll make it so it'll be Saturday night it'll have to be after the group, and I'll probably want a little bit of a break, so we'll say like 7. Now it'll show up in your time, guys, for wherever you're at. So we'll say 7 p.m. We'll have a I'll say 10 minutes in the hot seat answering questions around Linux in an interview style format. You can watch others and get some feedback on your interviewing, what would we call that? You're interviewing composure. Yeah, this was actually pretty popular when we did it the other day. I think people really liked it. So yeah, I'll make that event, and then I'll copy it. Here it is for people that aren't. Oh, it said hidden use copy button. Boom. Let's see. What? Still not gonna do it? All right, well, screw it. You guys can just go find it in the Discord. It's in the Discord. So someone can get access enough to see your telemetry data, then they can see what OS version. Yeah. So, I mean, in general, guys, like this is why I talk about this in like a holistic sense. Oh, there's my game going in the background over here. I almost always talk about this stuff in like a holistic sense, because you don't do any one piece of security in a vacuum. All of these kind of individual things that we work on, we monitor our systems. We do all of this. This is all the security Linux stuff that we do in that 10-week course. But we understand how to adhere to a compliance framework, because this gets us ready to lock it down. We set ourselves on the network in a secure way so that we understand what we are allowing in and out of the system, and that helps us out. We understand who we trust in the enterprise. and then we allow users in a trusting manner. Then we implement a framework to block people and air gap our systems off so that they're protected. We update our servers so that we resolve vulnerabilities that are constantly coming out, and we can report to our security teams. Interacting with other teams is a big part of being a Linux engineer, guys. Design logging workflows to event logging system for real-time monitoring alerting events, and then maintaining and configuration drift. These are big. You said, why don't I use Elk Stack? So I stayed away from Elk because I actually could have done Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. But I had done that before, and I wasn't super impressed with how Kibana set up. So Elk is perfectly fine, although a lot of people, Elasticsearch went to a business source model, so then OpenSearch was forked by AWS. So some people use OpenSearch instead, right? So that kind of setup, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just Elasticsearch also requires, as you send data into it, you still have to have an ingest here, which tends to be beats. So like metric beat or file beat as the server, sending data in. I went with this because, one, I wanted to kind of test everything and play around. And two, I wanted to kind of show Grafana as an endpoint to all things. So I have no problem with an Elk Stack. I think Elk Stacks work fine. I've used them professionally. But in my home lab and in recent builds of things, I do node exporter to Prometheus to Grafana. And then with that, I use a tool called Slurm a lot in high performance compute. So Slurm exporter to Prometheus to Grafana is an easy integration. And then if I can, I do Promtail agent to Loki. But if I can't do that, then I do rsyslog. So rsyslog is a method, and I have a way of doing that. I show you guys that over here. I'll send you guys a lab on this. We won't do the lab right now, but if any of you guys want to do the lab on your own time, I have a whole bunch of labs here in Killer Coda that you guys can do. But one of the Linux labs that I set up a while ago dealt with rsyslog and how to send all the logs. And this is still a very common method. This is still something that's very common in government systems, is rsyslog. So yeah, but anyways, there's a lab if you guys wanted to do it. So for all that, I have not tried Graylog. I've seen Graylog, but I haven't dug into Graylog at all. I've seen that Graylog integrates with Telegraph and InfluxDB, and I've just never used it. I've never used OpenStack. I've looked into OpenStack, but for me, it's a lot of the stuff I do is simpler than that. Let me show you guys what I mean by that. In my home lab, right? I have 4 physical machines. They're right here. 4 physical machines. And then I want to virtualize them, but I want to control the cluster of virtualization, so I use Werewolf, right? So I got this one little Werewolf server sitting here, just hanging out. And he controls... He's if you guys are familiar with the old show Friends, the rules control the fun. So he controls how the Hammer servers boot, right? That's what he does. And if you really want to see it, it looks like this over here. He looks like this right here. He is doing these things in the environment. He's running 9873, which is his Werewolf daemon. He's running DHCP, TFTP, and NFS. There's a few other various protocols that he does, but those are the main ones. And then when a node comes up and doesn't know who it is, it checks in, and DHCP responds via the MAC address of that box, and it says, okay, Rocky1, you're Rocky1. TFTP, you can pull down your kernel and your init RAM-FS, and you can boot yourself up to a specific type of node. Setting up fleet server and agents and clustering services, dealing with JVM pressures and disk. Yeah, it seems like a lot of fun. T. Roten. A lot of times I get to build these out as brand new systems, so it makes it even easier. So yeah, I haven't used OpenStack, but for me, for cluster management, I use Werewolf, and it works really well for kind of controlling a large set of servers. Let me shrink this back down over here. Okay. Anyway, so then in my home lab, I use virtualized machines that I can build via Ansible, or if I need to, I can build them by hand, but then they're maintained by a cluster management tool that resets them and rebuilds them and all that kind of stuff as well. So that's kind of what I do in the home lab. That's kind of the way a lot of this stuff works for me, right? I show you guys a lot of this stuff in our Discord. I'm constantly telling you guys about the Discord because it's a really good place to go and spend additional time. I have like a project we did a long time ago where you guys build each part of this, and that's all still up on Killer Coda. So Killer Coda is a free site. You guys can go in there and you get to build Telegraph to InfluxDB version 2 and Grafana, and then you get to see the data flow across all this. You get to basically make this monitor right here, this environment. It's very similar to this. And then I have the Promtail agent to Loki, which looks like this, makes this. Promtail to Loki to Grafana. And then I have one other one, which is Grafana, Prometheus, and Node Exporter. And that makes one that looks a lot like this right here. Right, and you can kind of see the utilization of your systems and how much people are actually using your systems and all that kind of stuff. Right, so yeah, that's all, and that's all there. That's all out there for you guys to mess with. How can we test if our firewall actually works? On terminal it looks fine, but how do we actually self-pen test? So Bruce, what I would do is I would take if I had two systems and one I turned on a firewall, I would turn the firewall off. I would make sure that I had all the connectivity that I would expect. Maybe you even scan and see any open ports. Then I would turn the firewall on and validate. So there's this thing that we do in engineering, right? Let me pull this up. Let me see if I can just find it. Yeah, false positives and false negatives. If you guys have ever heard of this, and false error rates. And typically you'll find the testing of if things are true or not true and what null hypotheses are. It's all very important. Some of you guys know I'm getting my PhD in systems engineering right now. So it's a lot of this stuff in general. But I want to find, hold on, I want to find this one, type 1, type 2 errors. Here it is. These are the types of errors that you want to prove. Do you have truth or falseness of what you expect, right? So let me see if they have a good, I just want a simple, this is always complex, but if I can just show you guys, I guess this is the, let's just look at it as I didn't want to do these, but the null hypothesis is here, and then this is your table of errors. If something is true and you cannot reject it, then it's a probability of one. One is always, all probabilities add up to 1, right? So, and then so this is your type 2 error and type 1 error, which is when you reject but it's falsely positive, and when you have a false negative. These are your type 1 and type 2 errors that we talk about, right? So when you were talking about self-pen tests, you're basically testing for things that you do expect and don't expect to be true about things, right? Yeah, so over here, right? Let's exit Prometheus here. And over here on Hammer, right? I expect that we're going to start a web server on him. So Hammer IP BR ADDR, we know his address, and we're going to do DNF-y install HTTPD, right? So we'll just start HTTPD on him real quick. Now, get that going. So, if I wanted to test that this firewall was working, this is how I would do this. I would say ss-ntulp. Is port 80 open? No. Systemctl start HTTPD. ssntulp, port 80 is now open. We're listening to HTTPD. And locally on this machine, curl 127.0.0.1, I should see the basic HTTPD web page for this system. Right here. This is the basic web page. However, so I know this. Let's just say HTTPD, right? I know that's on. But I know that my firewall... we didn't have a firewall. All right. Firewall-cmd list all, right? We're going to see everything. Boom. We know that we're not allowing port 80 to come in from the outside with the firewall on. You guys see that? You're tracking? So my test would be like this. I would come to my other server and I would ping maybe 192.168. dot 200 dot, what is he? 174, right? I can ping him, he's up. I can maybe even SSH over to him because I know that that port is in and allowed. I can SSH to him if I know his password. But hold on, can I curl that page? Nope, no connection. Can I netcat that page? On port 80. And I might want like a -VZ. That might not work. We'll just try that. No route. Okay, so it's not connecting. But now I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to say systemctl stop firewall D. Come back over here. Now my connection immediately happens. I immediately get through. And then I say, well, maybe that was a fluke. Let's start the firewall again. Firewall's on. It's blocking everything. Well, it's blocking IPv. It's blocking port 80 for sure. It's not allowing port 80. Curl doesn't work anymore. So that would be how we would test. Like I expect it to be true that it's going to block, but then if it's if it's false, I can figure out my logic of if things are what I expect and can I reject or prove. In my case, to myself, I just proved that my firewall is blocking that. Does that make sense to everybody? So firewall, these are, and guys, I did not do any more advanced command than I had done earlier. I'm just looking at two systems, and I'm on Hammer 24, and I'm over here on my local box, pinging over there, messaging over to it. So, yeah, Bruce, hopefully that works. What if attacker sends ICMP timestamp request rather than standard echo request ping? Yeah, so Bruce, you can limit all of the ICMP stuff that you want through your system. So if you have, I don't have like bigger hardware, but if you go to ICMP, Internet Control Messaging Protocol, you can limit down. Here's all the response and request codes. You can limit down any of this stuff coming through. And if you really want to, you do not have to allow ICMP into your network. You can stop ICMP at any router. Oh, it's a CTL? Sure. Yeah, so let's go IPv4. So here's all my IPv4 stuff. And I can modify the way that my IPv4 works on ETH0 to whether or not he's going to listen at all to any ICMP. So I could come right in here. Let's do that same thing. Right? Oh, oops. Let's just grep ETH0. So here's all his ICMP, or all of his ETH0 stuff. And is he going to respond to, where's it at? I don't see it in here. Send redirects. I do not see. I see IGMP. I do not see his. Yeah, I don't see the turning off ping here. Well, it would be turning off ICMP echo replies. I don't see it in here. Pretty sure we can do it with the firewall. Oh. Ah, here we go. Yeah, I was wondering why it was. So you don't set it at the interface. You set it everywhere. So there's a couple ways I can do this. Should be able to just take this. I should just be able to set it. I always forget how to do that. Hold on. Oh yeah, we could just echo a variable in there. I didn't even think about that. So I could just do this. So for me, it'll be procsys should be it's the way I'm used to doing it is like this. For like fix for echo dot conf, right? And then in here I would drop that equals 1, right? Because currently it's set to 0, so we'll ignore all and set it to 1, and then I'll just set it right here, right? So now, so that'll be set, right? And now if I go check it again, it should now be set, and if I come over here, he should ignore. He doesn't respond anymore. Yeah, so now I just get those redirects, but I'm not getting that. I come back here, we'll go VI, set him back to 0. Right, he's back at 0. Reread it, and then come back here. Now I can ping him again. So these are the things that we can kind of rapidly prototype and test in our system if we know how to go in there. What if instead of ICMP they simulate ping by using TCP or UDP like a TCP? That won't, well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, if you just want somebody to not know your system's there, you can just not allow it to respond to any traffic outside of your network. If that's the case, right? Like, Bruce, I mean, all the scenarios, here's the thing. There's an infinite number of scenarios, right? What I would tell you to do is understand what is allowed and isn't allowed and block all the things that you're worried about, right? Like, understand how your system is working currently now, and then remove anything you don't want, and then validate with something like this to see that it doesn't work. But where I'm going with this is there's so many more. We could. It's the same thing. Like they found that trying to show people all the ways that people counterfeit was not nearly as effective as just looking at real money and studying how real money is actually, like this for bankers and stuff and people that are tellers at banks. They found that studying real money was a much better method to find fakes than it was to ever try to teach somebody all the fakes. Because somebody's only going to try to sneak in a fake that is their type of fake, you know? So what would be better is to know what the truth is, what the real system looks like. And I tell you guys all this all the time in engineering. We test for truth, right? We look for a system that is or isn't behaving kind of the way that we expect it to. So, all right. I'm going to close this stuff down. Back out of this a little more, and I'll set that spinning. I gotta go back to my other connection here, my other back over here, and then yeah. But if you guys have questions, like hopefully this stuff makes sense to you, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I'm gonna keep playing this game a little bit here, and yeah, just let me know if you guys have questions about some of this stuff as it kind of applies. What's going on here? I gotta make. Back over here. Trying that a little wider for you guys. There we go. Transition that over. Good. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Bruce, quantum computer. Yeah, I mean, like people can only test so many things, right? Here's the thing. For somebody to attack, let's say they're trying to attack the entropy of all your passwords. Well, they would have to have all your password hashes, right? So if you don't let them ever have that, then and then within that you also limit the length of passwords so that you can keep things from being a problem in the future. Like there's all these things, but yeah, like I mean, it's even with whatever technology, however fast it is, it can't. We were talking about this in the course. I'll show you guys this real quick. So in our Linux engineering course, we kind of were working on this. Going to be bright for a second. We were working on like controls, the type of controls that things are, right? So let's go look at like I'll show you guys one here. So actually let's go to PAM, pluggable authentication modules, right? And we were looking in the system for like fail lock, right? So we can fail users out of our systems forever, let's say, right? And where I'm going with this, and then even deny root is to lock root from ever coming in, right? By limiting the number of failed login attempts, the risk of a system, or where's the one? Let me see if I can find one more with root here. where we don't allow root to ever come into the system. Where's it at? Yeah, where is it? It's one of these. Yeah. We deny root, and then where's this one? PAM is set to yes, it runs through. Okay, so we use pluggable authentication modules. All right, so now we are setting in a technical preventative control for how users get access to our system right here. Does everybody see this? Like, we've got pluggable authentication modules, and that means you have to come in. If you're going to SSH in, you're coming through this config, and you're using pluggable authentication modules, and we've got technical preventative control in place. And what I always tell people then is we've put something in place to protect our system, but somebody has two options now. They can go around that and not use SSH to try to get in. They can use some alternate method, or they can break this control in some way. Those are the only two options to get into a system now. You can bypass the security that's in place by going a different way, not through SSH, or you can break this. Those are your two options. And people use Metasploit and people use all these things, but they're either trying to go around something that's configured in place or they're trying to break it. Those are the only two things that can happen. So knowing that, right? Knowing what I'm saying is true, or at least believing that I'm saying is true, is it doesn't, like, I almost want to say it doesn't matter what they send at you. It matters that you understand how your system's secured, and then you're monitoring it, and how are you protecting your system, if that kind of makes sense. That's my thoughts on all that. So, yeah. So that's kind of the way that part works there. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna be back on chill mode, but I'm gonna pull up where's my little hourglass at? Let me see if I can pull up an hourglass. And hourglass is gonna get, let's say, 10 minutes. So. And I'll just say, take a break and think of Linux questions. Yeah, I'll try to answer more questions and that kind of stuff, and then we'll kind of work through that. Yeah, Bruce, I'll show you I'll tell you about honeypotting here in a little bit if you want. Yeah. Let's take a little break though. Feel free to walk around. I will start back when that timer's done. I got to go see what the internet guys are doing out front because they're messing with the internet. I make sure that they don't mess anything. Yeah, I'll be back. I'm just going to wander around a little bit. All right, keep taking a break. Hopefully I'm not missing anything down here. I should have a hot mic. Yeah, my hot mic was me crackling a water bottle, I think. But I'm looking out front because the guys were, they're in front of my driveway right now, like putting in Cox fiber internet, which I'm on my Cox internet now. So if they drop my internet, that's why. They shouldn't drop my internet because they didn't tell us they were going to. But I could always just jump over to my other Wi-Fi if I needed to. I have two internets that come into my house. All right, take a break a little bit longer. I'm gonna go wander around a little. Just getting some steps in. So go and revisualize. I am on a break. Just got back upstairs. I'm kind of creeping on the Cox Internet guys. They're out front digging up my front yard. But it's on the easement, so it's okay. I'm mostly just hanging out today. Working on another screen. So if you guys are... Oh, you were watching ads? Well, they shouldn't be giving any of you guys pre-roll ads. I don't think I have a config handy. I pretty much just I pretty much just let it default. If you guys don't ever use that, it's one of the best commands ever. Just cat out assystctl command. Let's go look at what Yeah, I don't have any special args in there. Just the defaults. Sorry guys, I'm also sitting here eating these little pretzels my wife had. But she knows anything she leaves around, boom, I can eat it. I'll re-visualize you working from home, nice. Yeah, I mostly just do. Let me see if I can find where. So there's no special config in there. No. Yeah, there's nothing special. So I'm not sure exactly how that picks the public, but if we were to go modify it, I'm not sure where it would write. Oh, it's a pretzel trap. Yeah, these are little butter snaps, which probably aren't my favorite. But also, I was going to give Ranger a treat, but he was so knocked out down there. I didn't even bother. Oh, I would spell firewall. No. I wonder if there's a... check config. Maybe that'll tell us. Oh, well. Let's go look for config. We can get the status. We can reset to defaults. No, it doesn't give me any. Huh. I can find the system config path. No, maybe it won't even tell me that. Huh. Yeah, I don't know where the default path is. I don't have it. Let me see if I can find it. I don't have the command. I'll get it. I'm installing it now. Oh wow, look at all the other crap I want to install. Jeez, that's a lot of... Whoa. A lot of dependencies. That's the most dependencies for a single command I've ever seen. Jeez. That's fine. It's in the lab. I don't care. If this is useful, I'll build this into the actual image. I'll show you guys how to do that. And then we'll go from there. Oh, that wants to run. Bruce, they shouldn't, because they're coming from a trusted, you know, they've been trusted. You have, so you establish trust a couple of ways. in my environment, all those things I just downloaded came from like this Rocky repo. And we have a GPG check that proves that it's the same one that they did. So whatever they scanned and tested, which presumably, well, if you're paying them for sure, you're paying them for that kind of check. But also, we want to, over here, it's actually a big part of this week's, oh, I don't have it up still. But this week, in the Linux engineering course, we're going to talk about security, vulnerabilities, and patching, and kind of how all that part works. So, yeah, so we're going to, no, it won't work because I don't have a GUI. It tried to run as a graphical user. Look, I was trying to open up GTK. I don't normally run anything in a GUI. So that's how firewall config's trying to work. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a GUI going. I don't have X11 forwarded back to my machine. I could set that up in the home lab. I haven't gotten around to doing it. Typically you need like a local tool. But yeah, I mean, what I for sure do have that's for sure what I am running. How we got there, defaults. Defaults. I've never actually modified that by any other way. I'm right there. Yeah, that's my defaults right there. Miss Sapphire, what's your question? You can ask me whatever you want. Death Wish. Have I ever used NocD? I've never used NocD. Never used that. I'm gonna go pop back over here in my game for a second here. Oh, why am I not getting more armor? I need to go this other little area. So Miss Sapphire, if I wanted to do that, if I wanted to air gap and then block outbound traffic, I would do that at the network level. And I would think about what kind of traffic I want to block. And I would either block all of it and allow a few, or I would, but I would do it at the network layer. The game we're running is called Nomad Idol. It's on Steam. It's like a little $10 game I found a while back. I think it's fun. Just run around and kill everybody. It's an idle. Just runs. Yeah, because a lot of things are behind CDNs. Yeah, so if you block DNS resolution out, you're going to stop a whole lot of traffic because people aren't going to know how to do resolution out. So that'll stop a lot of it. But typically, I would, at the network layer, I would define, my policy would look like this if I were doing this for real. I would block all traffic out, and I would only allow traffic through that I wanted. So I would, my first rule would be to deny all, and then I would build above that only things that are allowed to go out, and then they would hit a deny any, and then they would be, that would be it. I would just allow traffic out that I wanted. Because yeah, I mean, when I build compute systems, high performance stuff, those compute nodes do not need to touch anything outside. They don't need to push traffic out. There's no egress allowed from them. SSHing isn't allowed anywhere. Like, I don't let like crap go for anywhere. So yeah, for me, that's how I would do that. Yeah, if we're talking air gapping, right? Let me pull up. Actually, shoot, I got it right here. Well, I do have it in my presentation, but like a network like this. Let me see if just moving this down out of the way will help. Maybe this is the best way. Hold on. I'll switch over to this. So let's say these were your devices out here that were allowed in or out, Miss Sapphire. People would come in and they'd hop on through whatever nodes that you allowed them in. And then they would talk to the cluster and the stuff. And all your networks back here, all your, in this case, like storage nodes and all of your compute nodes, they don't have a way out here. Now, you might say, well, through some interesting ingenuity, couldn't they? Yeah. We could definitely route them out, maybe. But not natively and not without doing some weird stuff down here. They can't, these physically cannot get out. So when we were talking about air gap systems, the entirety of this system is not fully air gapped, but these nodes are. When you come in, you can only hop into the nodes that you can hop into. You can't hop into other nodes. Actually, technically my head nodes over here are part of my login. So they should have this as well. But my point in showing you this is to say that you can represent things in such a way and then use the network as your filter. And these devices can't even, they can't resolve, they can't talk, they don't even have a path out by default. And they don't even have a physical connection out. So that's how I think of that. So hopefully that answers that question a little bit. So Bruce, you said, how can we learn new stuff attackers try so we can defend? Well, the main one for that, for me, would be to watch your stuff. So for me in my home lab here, where's this at? Hold on, I gotta pull all this stuff up now. In my home lab, my systems are constantly watching for, oh shit, I got too much stuff going on here, hold on. Get this out of the way. Let me move this out of the way so I don't have to look at it anymore. Okay. In my home lab here, I monitor, this is all the traffic trying to come into my system. In fact, this is all the traffic that's tried to come in and do anything with SSH. Everything else is locked out. But these are the things that are coming in. I can see the types of information they're passing in, any logging type stuff around SSH. So I can see if they're doing, I mean, looks, most of these are trying to come in as root, which isn't, that's an inert user on my account. They can't even get in via SSH anyways. They're trying common ones like Postgres and bot. and backup and EKI. One of them that's very common is ELK and ES, which is Elasticsearch. EC2 user, they're trying to get in if I was just some system here. So anyway, so people are always constantly just scanning things. This is just the last 6 hours of people trying to get in. But then also we can watch successful connections. We could do things like sandboxing and honeypotting, where we allow somebody to come in, but we give them no real functionality. Yeah, this is all my setup. Yeah, I show you guys how to do all this in Killer Coda. I have labs that show you guys how to do all this. Here, I'll send you a lab that shows you that. I'm still eating these little things, so come on. Yeah, here's the labs. Here's the Loki one. So here's the lab, Bruce. That's a lab that shows that. I'll put it over on the Twitch side too. That lab shows you how to do all that stuff. This exact one right here, in fact. So yeah, you guys have all the power in the world. All right. Bruce, I've never tried FF routing. I don't even know what that is. I probably shouldn't. I might know that by a different name. Oh. No. I have never played with this. I mean, I know all these protocols, but no, I've never tried. I've used this project. Okay. No, I've never played with it. Looks like they got Slack up. That's good. There's all the maintainers. Access to their Git repos. That's always super useful. Never played with it, guys. Never, looks like it's getting updated in real time 2 hours ago. It's pretty solid. Yeah. I never played with it. Looks interesting. They did Google Summer of Code, which is fun. If you guys have ever seen that, you can get people involved. Pretty good little project. Yeah, I'll leave that up. Think about playing with that. Yeah, actually, I just saw that D-Roten. It's the replacement for the Quagga protocol, yeah. Or the software, which I had used before. I've never used that one, though. So, see how my guy's doing right here. Hold on. I gotta check on my dude. Is he killing everybody? Yeah, those little pretzels were okay. Weren't great. Make sure this is spinning. Yep. Shrink that right there. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, so this is what we do around here, guys. I'm working on stuff in another screen while I'm talking to you guys, so this is just me co-working a little bit. But yeah, I want to, mostly let you guys know that we've got a place for Linux people to hang out. Linux people can hang out and do, systems work with other engineers and other people that are interested in the same stuff you guys are. My little guy is getting beat up down here on this game. Excuse me. I might need to... I'm gonna switch up this character real quick. Hold on. Boom, boom. I need nothing like I need 80 more. I need 54 more of these points, or 56 more of these points. So I'm gonna work on beating the game right now. Sorry, I'm just setting up the game here in the bottom right a little bit. All right, strength. Vitality. Get a little bit of these other ones. Vitality all the way up. And then strength the rest of the way. Now we gotta up our little wolf guy all the way. Alright, there we go. Alright. Oh, we need to upgrade this. Double damage. Alright. G-Regular TV said, how am I doing the time? Oh, yeah, let me show you this. So I actually love this. I've been using this for a long time. It's called Revolver Tabs. My understanding is it's going away. It's Revolver Tabs inside of Google Chrome. It's an extension. And my understanding is it's going away, but for now it's still around. And I really love it because what it'll do is it'll automatically grab all the tabs and set them for 10 seconds each. But if you have something in particular that you wanted to reload, you can hit the button on them to reload, like if it was a static page or something. But if you don't want it to reload, it won't. You can also set specifics up here, and you can set each one. So like if I wanted the Prolog site to last a little longer, he would have a little bit longer, and then any of these other ones, and then I could resave them with whatever new values there are. I think if there's something that's not represented, it'll just show up every 20 seconds. But yeah, I love it. It's called Revolver Tabs. I used to build it into network operation centers for, like, I just put a 65-inch TV on a wall, put somebody's, Google Chrome up there with all of our monitoring, and these monitoring tabs that you guys see that I build, they're literally the same things. I clean them up a little bit more when I do them professionally, but this is exactly what somebody might see. Like, how is our Ranger? We're at 0 Ranger status right now. How are our servers? There's none of our servers that have recently rebooted. Well, they did this weekend, but that's because the wife pulled the power plug while I was working on them. This is the connection. This is it reestablished. This is all the stuff around my servers getting rebooted, and then yeah, we could just track things and see kind of what's going on in our environment. So, but yeah, that's kind of what that is. Yep. So I gotta fix some of those up. But yeah, Revolver Tabs is that, and you could put it in your Chrome, and you could use it on streams or do whatever you want with it. It's a nice little tool. Works well. My understanding is it's not supported anymore, though, so I guess it's kind of going away. Obviously, you can run whatever you want for as long as you want, but my understanding is it's not being supported. So something to play with, something to think about. D. Roten, I have 4 physical boxes. They are, 2 of them are Dell R710s, and 2 of them are older. They're like in the 600 series. I actually have a capacity thing. I don't have it as a slide. I have it as a slide on a different system, but like I have like all the. How's it going, Deaden? But no, I have all the specs on one of my like I have like a operational meeting that I sometimes pull up for you guys, but it's I have about, let's see, it would be 128, 128, 128, 32, so a little under 512 gigs of capacity as far as memory goes. I have somewhere around 160 cores or so of maybe a little under 100, like about almost 160 cores worth of compute, and they're carved up into, they're 4 big physical machines, bigger physical machines, and then they're carved down into somewhere around 65 virtual machines doing mostly lab stuff for you guys. People can log in and do labs and connect and do all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what I run them for, is to teach people Linux and give people the ability to get a bunch of extra, skills in that space and that kind of stuff. I do other stuff with them. I monitor stuff. I do, I do monitoring. I have some side work that I do for people around pulling information for them for like NOAA and NOAA projects. I actually have to get back to doing that for one of my buddies. But yeah, I do like little, because I'm a very amateur research scientist in that area. And I just use them for whatever else I want in the lab. So yeah, it works pretty good. It's enough to give people that want to learn more about Linux the access. Then we also have a good amount of stuff up in like Killer Coda, which is just a cool free site that I'm always telling you guys about. So yeah, and then for other people that want it, the breakdown is over here. This is kind of how it all works under the hood, right? We sometimes kind of go in there. I didn't draw all the people on this, other people did, but this is kind of like the physical boxes are down here doing their physical box stuff, and then the logically assigned networks are there, and then how you guys get in. So for people that want to connect, this is how they get into the lab, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then I showed this last weekend, and also there's a recording on YouTube for all the security engineering stuff. But this weekend we did bastions, and I showed you guys how you set up a bastion to allow people in, and how you can do that in a secure fashion, and how you can, just all these things that are just kind of there for you guys to practice and build and all that good stuff. And I really liked. I added some little AI images this weekend, and I think they're funny. Hold on, I'll show you. I think they're hilarious. Here, this was our presentation for this week, right? And it started off with, what we were doing, Linux Security Engineering 4, and then our announcements. And then we went through what we were working on, pluggable authentication modules and SSSD the week before. And then this week is air gap systems and jailing users. This week is still running right now, by the way. This week, people can just get in there and get into the discussions and stuff. And then I did an overview of like, what is a bastion system? Like, what does it mean to have all the systems being attacked and stuff? So air gapped, bastion, jailed. We talked about those. Then we broke them down. I showed you guys a little bit about like a network boundary. Then we talked about some benefits. Again, this is all recorded, so we're not going over it right now. But then I talked about bastions, and here's more of these little penguins attacking. This was super funny. Google Gemini made this for us. And then we came in and we jailed a bunch of penguins, a bunch of processes and users, and we used different types of jailing for them and that kind of stuff, which I think is hilarious. And then we got down and we built a bastion. So this was our architecture, and then this was how we deployed that. And those are all So if anybody was like, hey, how does that kind of work? Then let me pull this back up over here. You go to, you go to our one book here, which is then, the question for this week was building out bastions. So you go to lab 4, and here's the worksheet of it all. So if I link this to you guys, this is the exact lab. Are you home, wifey? I think the wife's home, which is funny because she's not normally home in the middle of the day. But this is the wifey. Are you here? Okay, good. She's here. This is how I would, this is how I showed you guys. And then there's a bunch of questions and stuff to answer. And, the guys are doing a real good job of pulling this all in. And then here's you can come over here. The cameras are off. I can
The
turn
cops
the
people are like 6
Oh, I
feet
know.
down.
I
in
know.
the
I
hole.
see them over there. Yeah. I looked outside earlier. I'm surprised my internet didn't go out. So the wife said that they're 6 feet down in a hole out in our front yard. So I think that's kind of funny. Yeah. So anyways, here's our lab. So if you guys went in there, here's the 2 Killer Coda courses on this week's stuff. So anyways, there's so much stuff for you guys to go get involved with if you wanted to and get better at this stuff. And, there's lots of stuff going on. So. I'll turn that back on so you guys can see everything. Ranger's not down there because the wife's here, so he's wandering around a little bit, trying to get hold of some snacks. That's what Ranger does. He hangs out and looks for snacks, which I don't blame him. If I was a dog, that's all I'd do too. But. All right, let me go check some work stuff while we're sitting here talking. See how that's all going. Bruce said, Tanis, what is the command again to show all the port and IP connection? Oh, it's SS. So it's SS-NTULP or netstat-AO is a pretty good one too. They show a little bit different information, but netstat-A will show you a good amount too, as will SS. Yeah, I use NTULP. People do that in all different types of orders. Yeah, I use SS. So let's take it apart real quick. So SS with NTULP will give you all of the UDP and all of the TCP. It will give you the ports in the port in numeric. So we're going to take away each of these to see what they do real quick, just for fun. So I'm going to say not N anymore. So now just TULP. And you'll notice that these over here that were forced to be numbers are now resolved as numbers from, if I were to grep SSH from Etsy services, there is the 22 being resolved as SSH. And I've shown you guys before, if you go modify this file, you will forever change that until you change it back. My networking stack's just TCP IP inside of a Rocky 9.5 box. Nothing special. I'm not running anything special. So there's that, just regular TCP IP implementation. NF tables in between. I guess that's the most. But so I do my SS, and I'm gonna put the N back. So now we're gonna go back to numeric because I like to see this in numeric. And I'm gonna take away the T, and now I'm not gonna get the TCP anymore. I'm only gonna get the UDP. And then I'm going to flip over and I'm going to do a T instead of the U, and I'm only going to get the TCP side. So then I'm going to put the T and the U back, and I'm going to take away the L, and it's only going to give me... What happens when you take away the L? Looks like it only gives me the established ones now. It's not just the listening ones, it's now the established ones. and then I'll put the L back. So I'll get all, and then I'll take away the P, and I will no longer see the PID associated with it. So the process ID associated with it. So that's what the NTULP all stands for. But we had to take it apart to see that. Does that make sense to you guys? I did all these commands to just take apart this and say, okay, the N is forcing the numeric, T is giving me TCP over here, U is giving me UDP, L is forcing it to give me all, whether they're connected or listening. If we're listening but they're not connected yet, it won't show up. And then P was forcing the PID to be shown, which I absolutely 100% want the PID at all times, right? Because I want to know what frickin' process is causing this. Because if I can't get this 111 to go away, and I need it to go away, I need to go kill the PID that's running it. And I can go investigate how the PID was started. You know, I can just grep for 687. And it'll tell me RPC, but it was started by 1, which means it was started by system D. So now I go, well, system CTL grep for RPC, and it's probably this RPC bind service. So maybe I say system CTL status RPC bind. Is it 687? Yes, he is. That's the one that I need to make is not enabled for reboots and is killed or stopped now, so he's not active. So that's how I would find all those things. But all I did right there, guys, if anything I did there looked complex, this is the longest command I did. Literally everything I did right there was a simple set of steps. Simple little set of things that we walked through and just practiced. Yeah, Amber, I actually think of it like the tulip as well. NTULP, yep. I know people that do TULPN or Tuplin, TUPLN. It doesn't, guys, the order doesn't change anything. It'll be the same either way. So, yeah, that's what we do. That's how we check things. That's how we see what's going on in our system and see our system as the system sees it. All that kind of stuff. And then what else are we doing? Well, I'm hearing Cox out front chopping up my front yard. COX, by the way. Oh, hold on. I need to fix this. There we go. Subtitles should be back now. They were busted for a little bit there. But my internet guys are out front chopping up my front yard and putting in fiber like literally right now in my front yard. The wife just came in and said they were 6 feet down on a hole in our front yard because they're running the conduit through the whole neighborhood. I actually have a picture of them. I can drop them up in the Discord here in a little bit. So, yeah. But hopefully that stuff makes sense to you guys, right? There's a lot going on in the systems world. A lot of things to kind of know. You don't learn it all one day. You practice over time. Get better at it. Let me add some things in this game. Looks like I need to go to the next level here to get these things up, and then we'll stop the stage at like 5 or 6. 6 is best, I think. There we go. All right, boom. Thanks for the follow, Ollie86. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I know my closed captioning didn't say your name right, but can't help it. Yeah, Miss Sapphire, I'm still on cable, but I will have the option of fiber as of today. So I could do, well, not as of today, whenever they turn it on, obviously, but I think it's capable of a couple gig. So it's just fiber speeds, which would be fine. Some of you guys know I run 2 internets to my house. I have my regular Cox internet, and then I have CenturyLink separately And the CenturyLink is for guests, right? If people come over, if people are here, I have family come from out of town or something. Everybody downstairs, anybody that connects gets on that Wi-Fi. But my normal home Wi-Fi is upstairs, and that's where my lab is on and all that stuff. And if that ever goes down, I just jump back over to the other link because nobody's ever on it during the day. It's just me. So I have to have 2 lines into my house. And you say, really, why? Well, because I'm an engineer and I don't want to take downtime ever if I can avoid it, especially when I'm working on systems, and I want to be available if I'm working on any kind of system, but especially a lot of the government systems I'm on. I want to be available if I ever have to hop on them. So I don't want to be beholden to just Cox Internet, which they tend to go down on the weekend. Like on Sundays, they'll just do maintenance and not tell anybody, and you're like, that's wonderful. Yeah, but here's the thing, Miss Sapphire. People might say, "Oh, you're wasting." Maybe that's kind of wasteful. But here's the thing: I get paid. I think my company pays me like $50 a month, and then my college pays me $50 a month. So that's $100 a month. If I got 90 on one and 60 on the other, I'm only paying $50 for my internet for 2 different internet connections. That's pretty decent. So, how's it going, Control Byte? Yeah, Dr. Scoot's coming. Well, I got about a year and a half, but. I'm actually, I moved away. I was on the DBA program. I was doing a doctorate of business administration, but now I'm moving.
Doctor for Linux means spending 90% of your time telling patients, have you tried turning it off and schmodding it on again?
That's pretty funny. I'm actually changing my major, so I'm going to do a PhD in systems engineering now. So originally I was doing a DBA, which it's all still doctor, but PhD tends to be what people are used to calling a doctor. So, Chico, yeah. So one of the things we always build into our systems is, we always build a redundancy of at least 1 backup line for every enterprise system I've ever been on. And what it is it's, you have, everything after the Telecommunications Act of 1996 requires there to be on any carrier. So I tell people this all the time. I tell my college students this all the time, that you could become your own ISP right now. You could go, your local ISP would be the incumbent carrier, the ILEC, incumbent local exchange carrier, and they must give you fair use to rent or lease their lines from them as the competitor local exchange carrier, the CLEC. So ILECs and CLECs always exist in an environment. That's ILEC, CLEC. ILEC is the incumbent local exchange carrier, and you could start right now a company called like Not Cox Internet and compete with Cox Internet on their own lines. They have to give you fair use to those lines. That being said, that's because of the Telecommunications Act of 1996, by the way. In case anybody cares. I have a degree in that in my undergrad, and that's how I know that. But anyways, well, also because I know like way too much stuff about too much stuff anyways. But where I'm going with that is, you just call it Not Cox Internet, not Cox Internet, and then you just on their line. And they actually have a service where you could use their people, and their people will answer the phone and act as though they're your service. Now you just are paying them a little bit more. But anyway, so the point is you can always do that. And where I'm going with that is you need to understand the concept I just gave, because the reason I said that you have to know that is because I've actually seen this twice in my career now. Has there been a third time? No, twice in my career, where when you give an RFC and you say, I need a request for comments or RFP, request for product, whatever you call it, RFQ, some people request for quote, on somebody coming in and bringing in a service line to your data center, you must specify in there that you must be the ILEC. And you say, why does that matter? Well, because I've seen this twice in my career where the people that bid were like Cox Internet, and then the competitor carrier also bid, and people looked at that and said, oh, that's a really good price. We'll just use these 2 people. So they paid double for the same exact line coming in, and when the line went down, there was no redundant backup because the competitor's literally just riding on top of the incumbent. There is no other line. There's one line going in. So if the line is down, you must ensure, this is data center operation stuff, you must ensure that you only allow incumbent carriers to be the ones that put in. And it might sound discriminatory, but it's like, well, shit, man, I need the road up, and you don't have your own road. You're riding on their road. Now, if we were renting trucks from somebody, and to change it up a little bit, yeah, sure, your trucks could come across the same road, but if the road is down, right, because that's what's happening, and that is the concept of an incumbent local exchange carrier and a competitor exchange carrier. So that's ILEX and CLEX. Incumbent local exchange and competitor local exchange carriers. Those are the two concepts. And I always tell my students about those because I had to learn about them in college. But also I've literally seen that burn companies where they didn't have a backup and they're like, well, shoot, let's go back and look through. And it's like, nope, for 3 years we've been paying this company for this false sense of security. But literally they were just the same lines. So it's Miss Sapphire, I'm telling you, it happens more than you might think. Or to put it a different way, I've seen it twice in a 22-year career. So that's, it's maybe not like a super common thing, but you only catch it if you were part of the process to catch it, or if you, or when something goes wrong. Those are the two times you would notice this. But you can specify, and then you can ask directly, hey, are you the incumbent? And they by law have to tell you. But also, it's very easy to find out, do a little research. It's just not everybody knows all that stuff. Not everybody, has a formal background. Like I tell you guys, I went to DeVry, and DeVry used to train a lot of electrical engineers and telecom engineers. And my degree program was in I have a bachelor's of network communication management, but I'm like one of the last classically trained telecommunications engineers because that's what they were doing. Oh, King Buns, we were doing, we were looking at systems earlier, and I'm still playing that game that I was playing from the other day. I think you were around for that. And then I basically just have this little thing spinning, showing people the Linux administrator course, showing them the security course. Just kind of the things that are going on. Actually, I can collapse those down. I think that looks nicer collapsed down like that. So, and then my internet providers are in my front yard in about a 6-foot deep hole, messing around with putting in fiber internet right now too. So, yeah, King Buns. I'm all out of meetings today too. I had to do some cybersecurity training, and actually there was something that was said in the cybersecurity training that I didn't agree with. It was on a government program, and it was talking about records management. So I did a cybersecurity training, and then I did a records management training. And one of the things was like, can you dispose of so you get to a final draft of an engineering document, and then at the end of this engineering document, what can you do with all of the drafts before that draft? Are they actually part of the record? And for me as an engineer, they 100% are. All the decisions that were made and all the things that changed from the start of us building something to the end, to me, is very important. Because we may ask later, why was this not chosen? And why was that, chosen and this and this? And you really don't probably have a record of that ever. But you do kind of forensically go dig through that with old versions. Well, anyways, they said, no, you only need to have the final draft of something. And I was like, not as an engineer. I don't agree with that as an engineer. Now, this was in the context of overall records. So maybe you're talking like the drafts of something before a public release or something. Sure. But I'm talking about like my stuff and like what I build. Every version of like my notes even are important. The differences of the things that I changed between last week and this week are important to me. So yeah, for me, I didn't agree with the way that they put that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, so I did all the stuff I have. I don't have any accesses to my system yet. I'm waiting for my accesses to come through. So I'm just kind of reviewing my old notes in the system. Actually, that's a good thing because I built the whole system that I'm going back to on one of these projects. So there's that. Yeah. So Chica, to answer your question, coming into a data center, you do typically have at least 2 channels, ways to move traffic in and out. They must be the incumbent carrier, not the competitor carrier riding on top of the incumbent carrier. Actually, you know what's really funny? Hold on, I'm going to post this in the Discord because my brother sent this to me the other day. And this made me laugh so hard, but it's really applicable to this. Hold on. Go drop it in the memes jokes channel. Because let me make sure I didn't post this the other day, too. Because if I did, this is still super funny to me. No, I didn't post it in there. Hold on. I'm going to post this because this is exactly what it's like if you're going to do... Hold on. My brother sent this to me. Hold on. Where's the Discord at? I'm going to pull up Discord real quick. I gotta get that. I'm gonna switch over to Discord view real quick. Hold on. So here's the Discord view, and it's this right here. So this is what it's. Hold on. Shit's making me laugh too hard. This is what happens when you hire the incumbent and the competitor local carrier on the same line. If you guys are familiar with the frog and the scorpion story. And he said, but now we shall both surely drown. And lol, said the scorpion Lamel. Like, if you guys have ever been on the internet and know, like, I did it for the lols, that's basically like... So the scorpion, you know, the story of the scorpion and the frog goes, the scorpion asked the frog to let him ride across his back, across the river, and he goes, no, you'll sting me. And he goes, why would I sting you? If I sting you, we'll drown. So they get about halfway across the river, and the scorpion stings him. And he says, now we're going to die. We're going to drown. I'm paralyzed. I'm going to sink, and you can't swim with your shell. We're both going to die. And the scorpion tells him, I'm a scorpion. What did you expect, right? But anyways, I think this is kind of fun here. I'm a scorpion. All right, anyways. Look, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Discord, too. You guys can hang out in there. Let me pull this other one back up. We'll at least look like we're kind of serious. I'll also drop the Discord for you guys that want it. But yeah, King Buns, we're not working too hard. I'm actually just kind of co-working in a different stream, in a different window over here. I got other stuff going on. That game is almost done. I can almost beat it, not quite. My little knight. Actually, I guess I can push for the, see how far I can go. I'm trying to get these last items. Can't quite get them yet. All right, we'll turn it off. We'll see if we can beat it yet. We'll go to 11. If you guys are familiar with Spinal Tap and going to 11. Yeah, that's what we're doing around here. King Buns. Just kind of hanging out. Not working too hard. I know that people are always asking if they can start the course still, even though we're in Unit 4. I think you guys absolutely can. Obviously, anybody can do the courses whenever they want. The books are all out there for free. But the actually getting the little cool certificate that we give out, I do tell people, as long as we're not halfway through the course, you probably could catch up. But it's a lot of work, because it's about 10 hours a week of work for each of the courses. So I thought we did a pretty good job in the security course this week, too. And then in the Linux admin course, the wife turned off my servers halfway through it. So people got to watch me recover my servers in real time. So that was kind of a fun little exercise in systems administration, and also in not unplugging stuff in a data center. So yeah. The lock is on the door now, so she can't get in there. Yeah. Now that's becoming, so my old office is becoming our workout room. It used to be this room. So we're still in the process of kind of moving everything around. So yeah, she can't get in there anymore. It's kind of funny. Now, why did the wife do that? Because she found a cable that had been plugged in for 5 years in the house and said, that shouldn't be plugged in, and unplugged it. That's literally the only reason. Like, she told me, well, but no, look, I was organizing all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, but you've seen that cable there for years. She's like, I didn't think it was plugged into anything. And I'm like, except all the servers right there? Ah, man. That's all right. That's all right. I didn't give her too much of a hard time. We recovered pretty quick, although the web page took a little while to come back. So it was actually pretty good. We were actually, I can show you guys exactly where we were in the security part of it. We were right here in the Linux course. Hold on, let me stop this. We were on Unit 4. And we had gotten into... Yeah, we were getting into the last of like the looking at a running system. But I'm pretty sure there was some talk in here around triage. Wait, I thought I had... Hold on. Yeah, so operations bridge, security incidents, and things that can happen in an environment. So yeah, we were looking at outages and stuff around like somebody, where's this? Your team has no documentation around how to check out a server during an incident, and as we were talking, pew, all the servers went down. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, that's why we only have 5 nines. Yeah, 5 nines I think is only about a few minutes of downtime a year. I think 5 nines is under 30 minutes of downtime. So yeah, it's pretty rough to stay at 5 nines. Meet my wife. Yeah, she just unplugged everything, and then she felt bad all weekend. It didn't help that I kept telling the story to her family every time. We had a couple family get-togethers after that, and I just kept telling everybody, "Oh yeah, Julie turned off all my servers," and they're like, "Why would she do that?" And I'm like, "Oh, who knows?" She saw everything. Yeah, she saw everything not in chaos, and she turned it into chaos. No, nah, she's doing all right. She's all right. We're going to see how far my guy can get. This is the furthest my guy's ever been in this game right here, is level 20 on this level. This is the last level, by the way. It looks like we're going to clear 20, but let's see how much further we can get. Let's level up our wolf so he's a little stronger. What does this little thing do? Alright. Looks like we can beat level 20, 21. Pretty sure you guys can see that little game playing down there. Yeah. So this is what we do around here. I'm working on a different screen, and you guys are just kind of hanging out watching that. I had another one of these open earlier. Let me check this. Bang 1020. I was also running this earlier, just so you guys had something else to watch. Just like some systems engineering stuff, some watching of some alerting on the system. Then we were watching the werewolf logs a little bit to make sure that they look the way that we expect them to. I also feel like, hold on, I feel like I can clean this up a little bit. I don't know why this looks exactly like it does. But I think I can get away with... maybe that looks like what we want. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Lose a little bit of real estate in the middle, but that looks fine. We'll leave it like it is. We're not losing too much of the screen. What are you guys all working on? Control Byte, you're around today. That's good. Schizophrenic's here. Good. And King Bun's always good when he's around. I don't know if you guys saw that the guys are working in the Discord a little bit. There's a little bit of chatter around making a little bot that will help people more if they choose to enroll in the course. Courses are free, by the way. We don't charge you anything for them, but you just hang out down in Discord and do the work. And maybe with the bots, we'll be able to set it up where the guys can go through the course themselves. That would actually be an interesting thing where I could just run the stuff. We could build the materials for it, and then people can do the course as they at their own leisure, kind of. How do you like Argo Control Byte? I've heard nothing but good things about Argo CD. And I've done some of the labs on Killer Coda, and it looks pretty interesting, but I have not done much else with it. I haven't done anything production with it yet anyways, let me put it that way. I have had no use case. A lot of times, like when I jump back into the high performance compute world, I get to work on pretty cool hardware and base Linux system solutions, but I cease getting to do the cooler, faster, like, for lack of a better term, kind of like startup type work. I don't get to do as much of that anymore when I'm deep down in, you know, just Linux for the sake of fast Linux. Then I don't get to do that anymore. Tooling aside, Argo V Flux, the benefits of embracing true continuous delivery is incredible, and you can never look back. Nice. I'll tell you what. I've got a lot of ways to make the home lab better, which which I think will only be better if I used kind of modern tooling around. Like currently you just drop into any lab and then you hope that nobody's in there, but I'm going to have it in the future where we check things and check that nobody's logged in, and then we're going to we're going to modify the login script directly for each different person that might be logged in, you know, to be sent to different systems, and I think that'll be kind of a cool thing. Old deployment patterns and lack of automation. Yeah, probably everybody's super used to Jenkins too. Oh, Control Byte, that's 100% true. Yeah. The challenge of like I used to tell my boss I could patch all the servers in the company in 10 minutes. Patching is one of the easiest things on planet Earth. Just patch all the servers, make sure your life cycles are good. But no, it's the getting all the teams on board, and it's getting, it's always hard to get, you know, to get somebody to agree to allow, you know, a certain amount of work to be done on a system at a certain time. Yeah. But the adoption of DevOps culture, I'm sure that's exceedingly hard as well. Which is funny too, because like everybody's like, well, we want this thing, but it's very hard to get everybody doing it 100%. Just like everybody thinks they want to be agile until you show them what the actual agile manifesto is, and they're like, I don't like that. Like, what the hell is that? I need to get that meme up. I don't have a. I need to start doing that. Every time somebody shows me something, where's that? Hold on. Where's that meme at? This guy. I need this as a meme. What the hell is even that? You guys are familiar with this meme, this guy? That's funny. Not any of these other ones, just this one. The hell is even that? Here's the gif of it. If you guys aren't super familiar, this is the Daddy Chill, and he's like, what the hell even is that? Oh yeah, I still have the hourglass sitting on my desk right here. That's a present from the wife. I can't get rid of that. But yeah, I have a little hourglass thing with what Control Byte's talking about. As I've got this little. It's a 1, a 3, and a 5 minute timer. Hold on, I'll pop it up on Discord here. And I used to when people would come talk to me, I would flip this thing over. Hold on. Drop in the Discord on off topic. Hold on. Let me go pull that up real quick. Where's Discord at? Discord. That stupid frog. Oh man, that frog. Too funny. Alright, hold on. It's down here and off topic. Where did I put it? Off topic. Right here. Yeah, and then people would come over and they'd try to talk to me, and I would just flip this thing over, and they would be like, "What is that?" And I'd be like, I don't know, it's your time. And they're like, what happens when this runs out? And I'm like, well, I guess you're gonna see. And if it ran out, and if it ran out, and they, by the way, they'd also be like, which one is it? And I'm like, well, it depends how much I like you. And then they'd say, well, what happens when it runs out? And like the one would run out, and I'd just turn away from them and go back to doing whatever I was doing. It's like how I know what to charge. Yeah. So when people used to come and ask me questions, I would just turn this thing over, and I would do it to my boss who sat right behind me, and he's like, you know damn well that doesn't apply to me. And I was like, you're gonna find out if I run out of time. You're about to find out. And I would just turn away from him. But my boss, I had one of these that I used to always send him. I know we have it up here in the Discord somewhere. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There's a one. Where is this? Hold on. It's like hold on, I'll find it on the other screen real quick. But it's I used to send this to my boss every few months just so he'd know. You guys ever seen this meme? Jenkins, quit playing video games at your desk. Hold on. Open link in new tab. Hold on. I might be able to open. Yeah. Damn it, William, stop playing video games at work. Give me a second. I just have to fight this boss. All right, I'm back. So I used to send this shit to my boss every now and then. He was the guy who brought me over to AAA when I was the tech lead at AAA. He was the manager overall of the Linux and platform, and I would send this to him in text like once every few months just to let him know. Cause he sat right about where that guy is standing behind me. Like me and him sat in like one of those like double wide shared half cubes. So he basically sat directly, like if we both backed up our chairs, we would run into each other. But it was like a double wide cube. And he'd be like, stop playing video games at work. And I'd be like, give me a second. I just got to fight this boss real quick. Oh man, he still calls me every now and then. Me and that boss, we still talk. He works over for this this other company. Excuse me. He works for a company doing. He's a manager again. That's all he does. But when I first met him, he was a Linux Unix guy like me. He was on this other team doing similar stuff to me, but I was on a thing called FedRAMP at the time, which was like an early version of like the federal programs that people use now through like AWS. But we weren't with AWS. We were our own thing called FedRAMP. It was a big company called CGI. They dropped the ball on the Affordable Care Act and all that stuff. Not me particularly, but I was on a different program right next to that one. And I laughed and laughed on that one. Northern Chimp, how's it going? We are not working super hard today. We're just kind of hanging out, playing some games and talking shop. Just talking shop. And joking a little bit. Yep, smoking and joking. No, I'm just kidding. Mostly joking. Hanging out. Seeing if my guy can beat this game. If my guy can get to level 37 on this game, then it's a win. So we'll see if I can win. Also, apparently an ad's about to start, so we'll wait until anybody gets back. But yeah, if you guys got anything cool you're working on, I know Control Byte's doing CI/CD stuff. I might go check out. I'm gonna go check out that Argo stuff. I've been meaning to mess with that more. There's a Killer Coda section on Argo CD right here at the top. So, oh, it looks like 2 people are doing Argo now, not just the one. It used to just be the one. What scenarios do they got in here? This might actually be worth. They got 8 scenarios for Argo workflows. I can learn about it a little bit. Well, there you go. Boom. If anybody wants to do that, I'm not going to do them right now, but I'll link it to you guys. If any of you guys want to work ahead and then let me know how well you like these in the Discord later. I'm going to go check out this other one, too. What is his access scenarios? How many of these does he got? He's got, geez. Holy hell, you want to learn some Argo? This guy's got 36 freaking courses. 36 labs on Argo. So what is that? I got 44 labs on Argo. If I can't learn Argo from these guys, I can't learn Argo. I'm not smart enough. Look at all that. Sync policies, automated healing. I don't even know what any of that means. I'm just kidding. No, this looks really wow, look at that. A lot of good stuff. I'm gonna leave that up. Leave that up. Somebody's got some good stuff to show us how to do stuff that I've never messed with. Sold. And he'll teach it to me for free? Sold. What did I make it to? 39? Oh man, my guy only made it to level 39. Alright. So my guy can't make it all the way through Void Keep yet. We're gonna have to stop at like stage 10. Actually, we'll turn on the bestiary lock. We'll go to like stage 10. Alright. Yeah, control byte, that'd be awesome. That'd be an excellent way to do it. That would be an excellent place to do it. By the way, guys, I haven't even mentioned that. We have a thing coming up in August. Our group will be, I think officially will be, we're calling it 11 years now. And then we're 6 years on Discord in August, so those kind of line up. And we do a big annual virtual conference. We had a few hundred people there last year over the course of 2 days. It's free. It's online. You guys can go sign up. It's all in the Discord. Yeah, control byte. I should do that. I can do that. Make a little, a little conference thing so that you guys know. Control byte. Actually, the person to talk to. Well, we do have some good web devs. You guys know we have a web page right here, and I do this all. There's a Go container that I build that has all the stuff here. But yeah, if you guys wanted to add a page, or if we wanted to add, oh shoot, looks like my stuff's jacked right now. I gotta get this thing fixed. Yeah, there's this error. Oh, it's through the damn, I know what the problem is, but yeah, if we want to build it into there, we could. Yeah, so the error has to do with caching. So Cox Internet blocks me on port 80. So I run it all off port 8080, and then you guys all see it through CloudFront. And that failure is actually fucking through CloudFront, not finding the cached page. And I need to up the caching to like a year so it doesn't happen anymore. Because I can go directly to it. Look, this is the annoying thing, is I can go directly to it and it'll always be there. Like, it's always... Oh, maybe it's not. Is my internet down? What the heck? Alright, well, something's definitely going on with my internet then. Because that should have worked right here just as easy. Huh. Yeah, see, that came through right away on the direct link. But I can't redirect other people's pages to 8080, so... But anyways, that's what the page looks like, and it normally is mostly up. Oh, yeah, so if... Control byte, if you think about that... We'll do that. Yeah, it should go away after a while. It's a caching thing on CloudFront, and then it's a caching thing and also hitting the page. Yeah, see, now it's back up. It's fucking stupid. It's kind of annoying. I need to fix that, but we'll get that. It should be gone now. Yeah, the alpaca, I'm just kind of hanging out. I'm working on other stuff in a different window. So not really working too hard on this, so all that stuff. Yeah, D. Roten, I was going to write, so my well, I don't actually, technically I don't have a dissertation right now. But the 60 pages that I have for the dissertation I was going to do dealt with effectiveness of, or what we call efficacy of training in, and this is an even red team. The thing that I was going to do, yeah, what I had originally planned and started etching out as my idea was around, yeah, if red team activities were actually of any use to an individual company to do. And I'm still not 100% sold that they are, because the way that we do red teams, we limit so many things as to make them almost just. It would be like if you were training MMA and you're like, okay, I want to see if I'm ready to fight. So then you call one of your nieces over, and she's like 6 years old, and then you like give her like some little like powder puff little, or whatever they were, Powerpuff Girl like boxing gloves, and go, okay, attack me, and I'm just gonna defend. Well, I mean, clearly you're gonna be able to defend against her if you nerf, as we call it in video game world, right? Like getting hit with the nerf bat. If you nerf everything down to where it's not even effective, for a real use case example, like when we used to do red teaming and pen testing, it was like, and if you find a database, and if you push on that database and it's going to fall over, just go ahead and stop. And you're like, all right, well, okay. And you're like, well, because obviously, clearly you found a live database that could be pushed over. But it's like, well, I get that you don't want to like hamstring your own company and cost your own company money, but like you do realize that by like not doing it and not getting it to be fixed immediately, you leave it open for when it's actually going to happen for real. Yeah, she's throwing haymakers, but she's still only hitting your knee, right? Yeah. Or the big Hulk hands from. That's like a stupid episode of Rick and Morty where. God, you know what? I didn't like that episode nearly as much as everybody else did. Well, there are a few episodes I didn't like nearly as much as everybody else, but the one for sure was like the one with all the little like space parasites that only could make good memories, and that one was okay. I loved Pickle Rick. I thought Pickle Rick was hilarious. I even like the end where it's like, that's why you always save. What did he say? That's why you always do the whatever, because Jaguar came and saved him at the end. Yeah, I thought Pickle Rick was great. When he's doing the parkour. That's very funny. Oh, man. But anyways, we're hanging out. I'm trying to get this last little bit of. I might have to change these skills to figure out how to win this. See if there's something better than that for local. Try Final Spark, because this obviously is pulling everybody together, and then we want to blow them to pieces. Sorry guys, I'm just sitting around. I might go rewatch Pickle Rick right now. Nah, not just yet. Figure I'll hop on a little bit. Probably stay on just for another 20 minutes or so, and then we'll hop off. But yeah, I want to give you guys the option to hang out, talk Linux. I'm working on other stuff. You guys are probably working on other stuff, but we've got a Discord out there where you guys can hang out with other engineers that are interested in the same type of stuff as you guys are, and you guys can maybe find something that's interesting to you. I haven't really showed this much today, but I do have more stuff that I've been putting up here in the little our little sales. We got our little Linux is the way and do all the Linux stuff, and I've been making newer ones of these. Actually, I was working with what's his name, Treasure. He's making a new little thing for us as well. So I'm just getting more of these little things. Prolog. It'll really just mean stuff to us, but. Fun stuff. We're going to all be at Scale next year, too, so I'm going to get out there and see everybody that goes out to Scale. That'll be in Southern California. I think it's down for Southern California Linux Expo. So we'll go out there. We'll hang out. We'll do some kind of thing. Normally, I have a bounty every year on people that can catch Robodom out there, because Robodom's been around a long time. Yeah, yeah. Well, D-Roten, what we were going to do, and we didn't really dig into it as much, but like we were doing Bastions this week and the security stuff, and one of the things we were planning on doing was we were going to, back in the day, and we never really finished doing it, but we were just going to allow everybody to connect in, and then we were just going to track the password that was sent in, because obviously these things are all trying to log in with the username and password right here. We were just going to allow everything to log in, and we were just going to record the password that it tried, and then we were just going to let it drop its inert payload into a set of servers that we have. We might still set this up. I might just still set this up, and no matter what it is, they just get dropped into a jailed user and get launched over to a system. We keep track of everything, and then we just package up all the commands that they did and all the payloads that they dropped, and just start publishing it as like its own little standard. And X3 Linux, how's it going? We're just yeah, we're not working too hard right now. We're just hanging out. So not working too hard. Alright, so Final Spark's not doing very good damage. So let's go change that. Let's go see if we can find something better for damage. Get out of here. I don't like any of these. Yeah, D-Roten. We'll probably do it one of these days. I just super busy. So it's interesting if you guys ever do any research, and I don't know everybody's background, so I never know like who's done a large amount of academics. But when you get in there, you realize, oh, when we first do a dissertation, we're not really doing anything fun. We're just building on some research that has already been done. Like you got to kind of spackle it onto the side of other stuff that's already been there. It can't be something unique. That's not what anybody's looking for in a dissertation, right? You got to just kind of modify somebody else's research, go find some ways that some research could have been done better, or a technique. Typically, you got to use a technique in what we call a tooling or methodology that's always there, especially in like a quantitative project. So whatever you do, however you look at it, it's very much not nearly as exciting as you might think. But then when you get into normal research, you can research whatever the hell you want, right? Like, who's going to tell you can't research something once you're on your own time? But typically when you're doing your academic stuff, you got to add to a body of knowledge in some way or whatever. So it would be hard for me to work on one of those things, but then it would be easy to start publishing stuff after. And actually I've talked to the guys about this, especially with like the little writers group and stuff. I will eventually want to get a group of people who want to help me do research stuff. And then they can be, they can get their name on some stuff that we publish from the Professional Linux Users Group. I think that would be a good little project to do, a good little way to get our name out there as well, where, it's a place for people to come and do actual research, not just engineering work. We got all kinds of horsepower to do real work if we want to. So just got to figure out what people are interested in doing, and then just start getting our techniques down and working on it. So that's all goals. That's all things to do as we, as we, as we kind of get there. So.
Hello, world. 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 Hello, world.
And then obviously we'll just sit here and play video games too, because that's fun. And I'm trying to think. This week, I think I have a certain amount of time probably free this weekend because I think the wife's going out of town one night of the weekend, so I'll probably be able to sit around. Let me see how this one does. Let me go look at this right here, Infernal Ray. Let's see what this does. Need to do more damage, guys. It's a problem. Oh, there we go. Oh, I can toggle it so I don't have to see it. I realize that now. I didn't know that's what that was. Oh, look, I've been playing this game for days and I just now learned that. Alright, Infernal Ray does not do a lot of damage either. I think I gotta find something that does more damage. Let's try Soul Link. Give Soul Link a shot. Anyways, yeah, so we're just kind of hanging out, doing that. I have to change that number to 3,900 soon, down on the bottom there, because we're getting to 3,900. We probably won't hit 5,000 by the time we do our meeting, but maybe, and then kind of that'll be interesting. Alright, let's see how we're doing here. Man, it's taking a long time to get those. So anyways, alright. Yeah, Miss Sapphire, I think that's a good goal to shoot for, right? Get more people to come. I'd like to figure out a better way to track everybody that comes to the group. We don't typically do any tracking, but yeah, just know how many people came. Yeah, all the members, yeah. I remember we blew up right around this time last year because we just happened to have one video on YouTube that people really liked or something. It was called Beginner to Expert Linux. And it had a couple 100,000 views. I don't know what in particular people liked on there, but you know, trying to just show people how to do Linux. That's the goal, right? Just no nonsense Linux stuff. A little bit of nonsense. You're allowed a little bit of nonsense, guys. It doesn't have to all be no nonsense. All right. That Soul Link is not doing good damage, so we gotta find a skill that'll do better damage than this. No, actually, you know what? We're gonna leave it instead. We gotta let it get up to the level of everything else before we judge it. That'll be more fair. Yeah, we'll let it get up to the level of everything else to make that more fair. How's that? That'll be good. I'm trying to compare it to things that have way more levels than it, so we'll give it a little bit more time. All right. Well, what we need to find somebody to raid over on the Twitch side of things. We'll go find somebody to raid, and then I will be around, guys. Like, I'll be down in the Discord and stuff. But let's go find somebody over there in the world that we want to raid. Let's see. Who are we following that we can go message and see? Clonk is on. Let's go hit Rossburger up. Rossburger's always fun. He's got a lot of energy. We will be back around. I'll be back around later on this week. We'll be working on stuff. So I definitely appreciate all you guys coming by, and I will see some of you later on this week. Take care.